Chapter 859. Blood God, Thunderbolt, Bullet Swish. Swish, swish, swish. Seeing that Hang Su was injured, Mu Feng, Duan Cheng and Hong Mo landed beside Ningyu. Let me kill him. Duan Cheng's tone was cold and furious. Wait. Ningyu waved his hand, gesturing for Duan Cheng to calm down. Why not kill him as soon as possible? Hong Mo and Mu Feng were puzzled. In the past, Ningyu had always been cruel to his enemies. He would kill if he could, without holding back. Why didn't he kill Hang Su from the Blood God Palace right away? He's still useful. Ningyu kicked Hang Su to wake him up. You'll die a horrible death. After waking up, Hang Su didn't change and cursed. Let me go if there's a book. Let's fight again. What's the point of fighting a loser? Ningyu shrugged, then turned to Hong Mo and said, Stay here and watch him. I'll go watch the battle between the blood puppet ancestor and the rest. Hong Mo, I've left a trace of soul force in Hang Su's body. Watch my eyes. Ningyu sent a spiritual message to the Red Devil for the last few words. After all, it wouldn't be good if too many people knew about it. Ningyu, are you sure you want to watch the battle between the blood puppet ancestor and Senior Donghe? Seeing that Ningyu was about to leave, Mu Feng quickly said, They're both first-grade mortal sovereigns. The shockwaves from their battle could hurt. As he spoke, Mu Feng's voice gradually weakened. The shockwaves from the battle between first-grade mortal sovereigns could easily kill a half-step to manifestation realm cultivator. However, Ningyu wasn't an ordinary half-step to manifestation realm cultivator. The shockwaves from the battle between first-grade mortal sovereigns probably wouldn't pose any threat to Ningyu. You guys wait here and watch Hang Su. Don't let him escape, no matter what. As Ningyu flew out, he left these words behind. Bang! As soon as Ningyu left, Duan Chengqing kicked Hang Su and said coldly, Aren't you showing off? Aren't you very strong? Get up and hit me if you can. Seeing Duan Cheng like this, Hong Mo and Mu Feng chose to turn their heads to the other side. You're not much better than others if you show off when they're caught. Whoosh! At the same time, Ningyu had already arrived at the battlefield where Blood Puppet Patriarch and Donghe were fighting. Because Donghe was afraid that their battle would cause panic, he chose the 9 heavens as the battlefield. Although it was said to be above the 9 heavens, it was actually just high up in the sky. The level above the 9 heavens was beyond their reach. Boom! Blood Puppet Ancestor forced Donghe back with one move. He said in a low voice, Donghe, I didn't expect your strength to grow so quickly. It seems like I have to kill you today. Otherwise, after a while, even I won't be able to do anything to you. You want to kill me? Why don't you pee and look at yourself in the mirror? Donghe's tone was calm as he said, We're both first-grade human supremes, and my soul power is much stronger than yours. What do you have to kill me? Is it because of your eloquence? In the face of absolute strength, all schemes are useless. Blood Puppet Ancestor took out a black ball-shaped object from his chest and said coldly, I'll let you have a taste of it. As he spoke, Blood Puppet Ancestor suddenly shook his wrist and threw the black ball-shaped object. Not good. Looking at the ball-shaped object that was speeding towards him, Donghe's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly retreated. Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. What Blood Puppet Ancestor threw out was something specially developed by Blood Divine Palace. Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. The so-called Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb was divided into several grades. The lowest grade of Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb could only be used against Yin-Yang Realm Warriors, while the slightly higher grade could be used against Creation Realm Warriors. As for the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb that Blood Puppet Ancestor took out, it was the highest grade of Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. The power of its self-destruction could even injure a Supreme Realm Warrior. Ha ha ha, Donghe! Enjoy the power of the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. I'll go torture Ning Yu first. After throwing out the blood divine thunderbolt bomb, Blood Puppet Ancestor laughed and flew away from the area. Blood Puppet Ancestor, do you really want to torture me that much? However, before Blood Puppet Ancestor could fly far, Ning Yu appeared in front of Dong He and said calmly, "Of course I want to torture you. Of course I want to torture you. You killed Rong'et?" Blood Puppet Ancestor answered subconsciously. However, Blood Puppet Ancestor quickly reacted and hurriedly turned to look. "Ning Yu, how come you're completely fine?" Blood Puppet Ancestor's eyes widened in surprise. From Blood Puppet Ancestor's point of view, Hang Su and Su Bo were enough to capture Ning Yu. Blood Puppet Ancestor had even informed Hang Su and the others in advance, asking them to entertain Ning Yu first. However, what he discovered now made him feel a little confused. "Ning Yu, get out of the way." Blood Puppet Ancestor was shocked. Ning Yu's sudden appearance shocked Dong He even more. One had to know that the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb was flying towards them at an extremely shocking speed. "Pa!" Ning Yu waved at Dong He without turning his head. Then he stretched out his right hand and firmly grabbed the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb in his hand. Swoosh! At this moment, time seemed to stand still. Dong He's eyes widened as an extremely terrified expression appeared on his face. That was a Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. It would explode upon contact. How could Ning Yu dare to grab it with his hand? No, it didn't self-destruct. Suddenly, Dong He seemed to think of something and said in surprise, "Ning Yu, how did you do it?" The Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb was said to explode upon contact. Why did it not self-destruct when Ning Yu was holding it in his hand? Could it be that because Blood Puppet Ancestor was in a hurry, he did not open the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb and threw it out? A series of questions rose in Dong He's mind, causing him to shift his gaze to Blood Puppet Ancestor. At this moment, Blood Puppet Ancestor was even more confused than Dong He. Gulp! Blood Puppet Ancestor even swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said in disbelief, "You can actually control the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb!" Blood Puppet Ancestor was 100% sure that he had opened the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. The current situation made him suspect that the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb he had thrown out was a fake. Phew! Ning Yu let out a long sigh after sending a bit of soul power into the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. At that moment, Ning Yu faintly discovered the flaw of the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb. Therefore, Ning Yu rushed out without saying a word. To be honest, Ning Yu was taking a huge risk by doing this. If he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Ning Yu controlled the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb and neutralized the terrifying power that was about to explode. Ning Yu carefully put the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb into his storage ring and said indifferently, "Blood Puppet Ancestor, the Blood Divine Thunderbolt Bomb was taken by me. Su Bo was also killed by me, and even Hang Su is under my control. You are now a commander without an army. What do you have to fight against us? Senior Dong, let's go down quickly, lest Blood Puppet Ancestor becomes desperate and attacks Duancheng and the others." Ning Yu glanced at Blood Puppet Ancestor, then said to Dong He, "Go." Chapter 860. Explosion. Damn it! When the Blood God Thunderbolt Bomb was snatched away by Ning Yu, the Blood Puppet Patriarch was furious. Now that Ning Yu and Dong He had left at the same time, he was even more furious. After cursing, the Blood Puppet Patriarch tore through the void with both hands, turning into an afterimage and disappearing. Buzz buzz! As the Blood Puppet Patriarch left a step after Ning Yu and the others, he landed in the courtyard a step later. "Let Hang Su go." In the courtyard, the Blood Puppet Patriarch saw that Hang Su's aura was weak and even his legs were broken, and immediately shouted angrily, "Let him go." Ning Yu played with the Blood God thunderbolt bomb in his hand, pointed at Hang Su, and said, "A warrior at the peak of the creation realm, if put in some special place, can even sell for a sky-high price. If you really want to save him, just give me a few million King Great Essence crystals." Laughed, hearing Ningyu's words. Even Dong he could not hold back and laughed out loud. The blood puppet patriarch was originally very angry, and now seeing the reaction of Dong He and the others, he clenched his fists and said fiercely, "Tens of millions of King Great Essence crystals. Why don't you go rob them?" "I want to rob them, but someone won't give me the chance." The first half of Ningyu's sentence was said very calmly, but the second half took a turn, and he said gloomily, "I'll give you a minute to think about it. After a minute, if I still don't see King Great Essence crystals, then Hang Su will go accompany Su Bo." The blood puppet patriarch's face was gloomy, and he was having an intense internal struggle. One had to know that tens of millions of King Great Essence crystals were all he had. Moreover, even if he wanted to take them out, there was no way. After all, he could not bring all his belongings with him when he went out. Right now, he only had a few million King Great Essence crystals on him. "Ningyu, I only have 3 million King Great Essence crystals on me." The blood puppet patriarch took out a storage bag and said, 3 million King Great Essence crystals in exchange for Hang Su's life. How about that? 3 million King Great Essence crystals? Ningyu raised his eyebrows as if he was thinking. In fact, Ningyu did not plan to get the royal grade origin crystal from the Blood Skull ancestor at all. The reason he had extorted the Blood Skull ancestor was to prepare for what would happen next. Blood Puppet Patriarch's attitude towards Hang Su also confirmed Ningyu's guess. Hang Su's status in the Blood God Palace was much higher than Su Bo's. Otherwise, with Blood Skull Patriarch's personality, he would not care about Hang Su's life. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said in a clear voice, "One hand over the crystals, the other hand over the people." "All right," Blood Puppet Patriarch responded. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the storage bag towards Ningyu. Hong Fiend. Ning, you did not disappoint, Blood Skull ancestor. He winked at Red Devil, his meaning clear. The Red Fiend kicked Hang Su's back, sending him flying towards Blood Puppet Patriarch. "Pa!" At the same time, Ningyu grabbed the storage bag and shouted, "Let's go! Go!" Hearing Ningyu's words and looking at Ningyu's face, Duancheng could not understand. "I asked you to go, so go. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Dong, he knew that Ningyu would not speak without thinking. He grabbed Duancheng and chased after Ningyu. Hang Su. Oh no. On the other side, Blood Puppet Patriarch caught Hang Su. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly tried to push Hang Su away. However, Blood Puppet Patriarch was obviously half a beat too slow. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Hang Su's body expanded rapidly and then exploded with a loud bang. Hang Su was a peak manifestation realm martial artist. The aftermath of his explosion was extremely terrifying. Blood Puppet Patriarch was in the center of the explosion. Although he was a grade 1 supreme martial artist, he did not gain any advantage. In fact, Blood Puppet Patriarch could only burn his blood essence to increase his defense, hoping to block the aftermath of Hang Su's explosion. What's going on? It seems like someone self-destructed. If I'm not wrong, the martial artist who self-destructed is at least a manifestation realm martial artist. I'm afraid you're wrong. The power of a manifestation realm martial artist's self-destruction can't be so weak. That's true. Could it be that a kind-hearted person stopped him? On the streets of the capital, pedestrians stopped in their tracks. However, the terrifying aftermath of Hang Su's self-destruction did not spread in all directions. Therefore, it did not cause too much panic in the capital. Hiss! At the same time, in a certain alley, Duancheng could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. No matter how stupid Duancheng was, he could guess what had happened. Self-destruction. Hang Su, a peak manifestation realm martial artist, was forced to self-destruct. Although he did not know why Hang Su self-destructed, Duanqing knew very well that he would die if he stayed in the courtyard. Beside Duanqing, Ningyu frowned and asked, Senior Dong, your strength is about the same as blood puppet patriarchs. After you blocked the self-destruction of a peak manifestation realm martial artist, how much strength do you have left? If it were me, I would probably have about half of my overall strength left, Donghe explained. Half of my strength, huh? Can we kill our way back and kill blood puppet patriarch once and for all? Ningyu continued. Shaking his head, Donghe said, that's impossible. Based on my understanding of blood puppet patriarch, he will definitely use his unique secret technique to escape. Senior Dong, after this serious injury, how long will it take for blood puppet patriarch to recover? This was what Ningyu was concerned about. This time they had seriously injured blood puppet patriarch. There was no way blood puppet patriarch would not seek revenge. What Ningyu could do was to increase his strength as quickly as possible before blood puppet patriarch recovered to his peak. At the very least, he had to raise his cultivation base to the manifestation realm before blood puppet patriarch recovered to his peak. Otherwise, when blood puppet patriarch returned, only death awaited him. At most 10 days to half a month, at least 7 days, Donghe replied. Senior Dong, I have something I need your help with. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, Tonight I plan to refine the life-giving pill. I would like to ask for your guidance. I can't really call it guidance. With the strength of my soul power, refining the life-giving pill alone is more difficult. He waved his hand and said, I see that Dean Mu's soul power has reached the mid-stage of grade 8. Why don't we refine it together? It will increase the success rate. There's no time to lose. Let's hurry to Danwu College and try to refine the life-giving pill as soon as possible. Ningyu and the others did not linger here. They tore the void and flew toward Danwu College. Sha! After entering Danwu College, they rushed to the pill cavern without stopping. Ningyu and the others had just arrived at the entrance of the pill cavern when the Dark Emperor rushed out. Seeing Ningyu, the Dark Emperor was stunned at first. Then he said anxiously, Lu Wei's mother's condition is critical. If she can't take the life-giving pill within an hour, she might die from it. Also, Lu Wei has already woken up and is accompanying her mother now. What? Ningyu's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly pushed the Dark Emperor away and entered the pill cavern. He and the others did not hesitate. They followed closely behind Ningyu and entered the pill cavern. Ningyu was worried about Lu Wei's safety. It was impossible to refine the life-giving pill within an hour. One could imagine that once Lu Wei's mother died, Lu Wei's emotions would definitely fluctuate greatly. Chapter 861. Young Master in the depths of the pill cave, in a slightly empty area. Lu Wei, Lu Durong, Dan Xingzi, and the others surrounded a stone bed. Lying on the bed was Lu Wei's mother. At this time, Lu Wei's emotions were a little unstable. She was lying on the stone bed with a depressed look on her face. Whoosh! Ningyu. Seeing Ningyu flying over, Lu Wei quickly got up and looked at Ningyu with anticipation. Lu Wei, don't worry. I'll start refining the life creation pill now. Ningyu released his perception, probing Lu Wei's mother on the stone bed. I'll be able to refine the revival good fortune pill soon. After comforting Lu Wei a little, Ningyu turned to the other side and discussed with Donghe. Through observation, Ningyu roughly determined that the Dark Emperor was right. Lu Wei's mother could only live for an hour at most. If he didn't take the good fortune pill within an hour, then only death awaited him. Ningyu, refining the revival pill in an hour is harder than ascending to the heavens. Ningyu knew the situation of Lu Wei's mother. So did Donghe. not to mention 1 hour. Even if he were to spend 3 or 10 hours, he might not be able to forge it. That's what I'm worried about. Ning Yu gritted his teeth and said, What I mean is for Senior to stay here and temporarily suppress Andy's internal injuries. I'll try to refine the good fortune pill. Although I can suppress her internal injuries, the good fortune pill isn't that easy to refine. With your peak 6th grade soul force, it's basically impossible for you to refine it. Although he admired Ning Yu's courage, he was still not optimistic about Ning Yu. Let's try everything we can. There's no other way. Ning Yu said in a low voice, I can't suppress the injuries in Auntie's body. Only if Senior takes action, personally, will she have a chance of survival. All right. Since Ning Yu strongly requested it, he no longer insisted. He took out a scroll from his pocket and threw it to Ning Yu. When you're refining the life creation pill, you can open this scroll. It can increase the strength of your soul power to the peak of level 7 in a short time. Thank you, Senior. Ning Yu took the scroll, took the herbs needed to refine the revival good fortune pill, and flew to the other side. This time, only Ning Yu was refining the life creation pill. Everyone else, including the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil, stayed where they were. After all, Ning Yu was very worried about the injuries of Lu Wei's mother. If he could only suppress it for 10 hours, and he couldn't refine the life creation pill, wouldn't he die? Therefore, Ning Yu left the Dark Emperor and the others behind, and went to the deepest part of the pill cave alone. After confirming that it was safe, Ning Yu took out the pill furnace that he carried around with him. The last time Ning Yu fought with the half-step supreme martial artist Dan puppet, there were very few Dan puppets left in the pill cave. Even if there were 1 or 2 that escaped, they were Dan puppets with low cultivation and didn't dare to show themselves. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu naturally wouldn't worry about being disturbed. Although the life creation pill was only a level 8 elixir, it was one of the most difficult to refine. If the strength of Ning Yu's soul force was at the peak of level 7 or level 8, with the experience from his previous life, he might have a 90% chance of refining the life creation pill. But now, even though Ning Yu had the experience from his previous life, with the strength of his peak level 6 soul force, he only had less than a 10% chance of refining the life creation pill. With such a low probability, Ning Yu definitely had to adjust his mental state to the best. Phew! About 10 minutes later, Ning Yu slowly exhaled a turbid breath. Swoosh! With a flick of his wrist, he threw the pill furnace into the air. His right hand stuck to the bottom of the pill furnace, and wisps of vitality flowed into the pill furnace through his palm. The refining of the life creation pill was different from other elixirs. It required sufficient vitality, and the pill would explode if there was a slight carelessness. Therefore, Ning Yu had to store a large amount of vitality in the pill furnace. Half an hour later, when 1/3 of the vitality in his body had been transferred into the pill furnace, Ning Yu grabbed a medicinal herb with his left hand and threw it into the pill furnace. Chi-chi! As soon as the medicinal herb entered the pill furnace, it emitted a sizzling sound and was quickly refined. Refining the life creation pill required a lot of medicinal herbs, about a few hundred types. The first 100 medicinal herbs were not too difficult to refine, but it was a little complicated. This was also the reason why the life creation pill could be refined by many people. Everyone refined the medicinal herbs separately, and then the same person threw them into the pill furnace. Among the 100 medicinal herbs, the first few dozen were refined very quickly. Ning, you spent about 10 minutes to completely refine them. As for the last few dozen medicinal herbs, it took Ning Yu an hour to completely refine them. Rise! After refining 100 medicinal herbs, Ning Yu's soul force surged, and he took out 100 jade bottles from his storage ring, storing them separately. Because he needed to refine some elixirs for a long time, Ning Yu brought a lot of jade bottles with him. Fortunately, the consumption isn't too big. Turning his head to look at the remaining 200 medicinal herbs, Ningyu muttered. I reckon that I will only need to use the scroll when I refine the last 100 medicinal herbs. If he used the scroll for the first 200 medicinal herbs, then even if he could completely refine all the medicinal herbs, Ningyu would not be able to refine the life creation pill. Good steel should be used on the blade. Swish! After resting for a few minutes, Ningyu began to refine the medicinal herbs again. The middle 100 medicinal herbs were much more difficult to refine. Ningyu used a full 3 hours to completely refine them. Kacha! After refining the middle 100 medicinal herbs, Ningyu took out a royal grade essence crystal and began to absorb it on the spot. Although the life creation pill was difficult to refine, it could be stopped in the process of refining medicinal herbs to replenish one's vitality. Only the matching process could not be stopped, otherwise all the previous efforts would be wasted. Have you investigated it? While Ningyu was concentrating on refining the life creation pill, in an unknown space, 2 martial artists were conversing. These 2 martial artists' cultivations were not low. One was a half-step supremacy, while the other was a grade 1 human supremacy. Among them, the grade 1 human supremacy said, was Ku Emo killed in the Great Xia Kingdom's Elixir Cavern? Replying to young master, Ku Emo was killed when the Great Xia Kingdom was expanding their territory in the Elixir Cavern. The half-step supremacy realm martial artist replied, Good, very good. A small place like the Great Xia Kingdom actually had someone who could kill a half-step supremacy, Ku Emo. Indeed, he is not simple. The corner of the human supremacy's lips curled up. Go, pick 10 half-step supremacy elixir puppets, and let them take a set of puppet battle armor from the treasury. Young master, you mean we are going to attack the Great Xia Kingdom? The half-step supremacy asked. Haha, we won't go so far as to attack, but Ku Emo was killed in the Great Xia Kingdom. Chapter 862. Phew! Who? In the depths of the Elixir Cavern, Ningyu let out a long sigh as he looked at the 300 jade bottles placed around the Elixir Cavern. Although the last 100 herbs were extremely difficult to refine with the scroll provided by Donghe, Ningyu managed to refine all of them without any mishaps. After refining 300 medicinal herbs, Ningyu didn't have the slightest bit of excitement. This was because Ningyu knew very well that this was just the beginning. The most important part of the life creation pill was the proportion of herbs. If he was not careful, he would lose everything. In the best-case scenario, the pill would explode. In the worst-case scenario, he would be affected. There's still half an hour before the scroll's effect ends. I need to use this half an hour to settle the proportion of the 300 bottles of medicinal liquid. Ningyu's eyes turned solemn. Without any hesitation, he picked up a jade bottle, removed 1/3 of the medicinal liquid, and poured the rest into the elixir cavern. Swoosh! Following that, Ningyu used his peak rank 7 soul strength to repeat the same actions. He picked up the jade bottle, removed the medicinal liquid, and directed the rest into the elixir cavern. Although half an hour was very tight, Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He remained cautious and focused. 10 minutes passed. Ningyu completed the proportion of 100 bottles of medicinal liquid. 20 minutes passed. Ningyu completed the proportion of 200 bottles of medicinal liquid. The moment the 30th minute arrived. Rise! Ningyu bellowed. Immediately, the vitality in his consciousness poured out and entered the elixir cavern without reservation. At the same time, Ningyu's peak rank 6 soul strength entered the elixir cavern and began to compress the medicinal liquid. Sizzle! As the medicinal liquid was compressed, it made sizzling sounds. Damn it! My soul strength is not strong enough. Suddenly, when the medicinal liquid was compressed to 1/10, Ningyu's expression changed, and he cursed. The life creation pill was the best among the rank 8 pills. With Ning Yu's peak rank, 6 soul strength, he naturally could not compress the medicinal liquid. If he couldn't strengthen his soul power in time, this batch of life-giving pills would most likely end in failure. What should I do? Ning Yu's face was gloomy and uncertain. His eyeballs rolled as he tried to think of a countermeasure. In his current situation, Ning Yu could only hold on for 10 minutes at most. After 10 minutes, if he couldn't increase the strength of his soul force to the peak of the 7th grade, then he could only declare the concoction a failure. Rumble. Just as Ning Yu was thinking of countermeasures, the space in front of him suddenly split open and a cultivator appeared. You are Danny. Looking at the cultivator who suddenly appeared, Ning Yu was stunned at first. Then he revealed a shocked expression. However, the moment Ning Yu opened his mouth, a pillar of energy shot out from the flower bud. Before Ning Yu could react, it directly entered Ning Yu's consciousness. Ning Yu did not dare to be slow. He immediately sat down cross-legged and circulated the spirit transformation technique to absorb the energy in his consciousness. Swish! However, before Ning Yu could finish absorbing the energy in his consciousness, another pillar of light shot out from the flower bud. Pure soul force. Feeling the terrifying soul force undulations from the pillar of light, Ning Yu was ecstatic. He hurriedly suppressed the energy in his consciousness and focused on devouring the pure soul force. Ning Yu's soul force was at 6th grade. If he devoured and refined all the soul force, his soul force would at least reach early stage 7th grade. Furthermore, after reaching early stage 7th grade, there would still be a lot of pure soul force left. Once his soul force was raised to early stage 7th grade, coupled with the remaining pure soul force, Ning Yu's success rate in refining the regeneration pill would increase to 50%. Bam! 5 minutes later, a dull sound was heard. Early stage 7th grade. At this moment, Ning Yu raised his soul force to early stage 7th grade. As soon as his soul force reached early stage 7th grade, Ning Yu took out the alchemy cauldron. His soul force entered the cauldron and began to compress the medicinal liquid. At the same time, to increase the success rate, Ning Yu threw the remaining pure soul force into the alchemy cauldron, combining it with his early stage 7th grade soul force. He carefully compressed the medicinal liquid. Ning Yu was very careful in the process of compressing the medicinal liquid. He did not even dare to wipe off the sweat on his forehead. Drip, drip. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down Ning Yu's cheeks. Rise! After another 2 hours, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes. He slapped the alchemy cauldron with both hands, and the lid flew up. Chapter 863. Chapter 863. Ouyang Luan returned Shua. Ning Yu stomped on the ground and rushed out. Pa! He raised his right hand and firmly grabbed the elixir in his hand. Good fortune elixir. Mid-grade good fortune elixir. Looking at the mid-grade good fortune elixir in his hand, Ning Yu revealed a look of disbelief. Originally, Ning Yu thought that he could only refine a low-grade good fortune elixir. He did not expect to refine a mid-grade good fortune elixir at the last moment. A mid-grade good fortune elixir should be able to cure Lu Wei's mother's injuries. Ning Yu did not dare to stay here any longer. He hurriedly put away the elixir furnace and rushed to Lu Wei's side. Puchi! At the same time, in the area where Lu Wei was Dong He Mu Fong, and the others spurted out a mouthful of blood. Among them, Dong He's cultivation was the highest, so his injuries were the heaviest. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Mu Fong asked in a low voice, "Senior Dong, is there no other way?" In the current situation, we can only pray that Ning Yu can rush back with the good fortune elixir in 10 minutes. Otherwise, she will die. In order not to worry Lu Wei, Dong he sent a soul message to Mu Feng. Although Dong he did not know that Lu Wei had an extreme Yin body, he could guess something from Ning Yu's reaction. 10 minutes? Mu Feng frowned. His heart was filled with despair. If Ning Yu could refine the good fortune elixir, he would have done it long ago. He would not have waited until now. 10 minutes might be the last time Lu Wei's mother could live in this world. This is a conservative estimate. Dong he did not want to hurt Mu Feng, but he had to tell him the truth. If the situation continues to worsen, she will most likely die in 3 minutes. Hiss! Hearing this, Mu Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. Ning, you might not even be able to rush back in 10 minutes, let alone 3. At this moment, Mu Feng and the others shook their heads, their faces filled with disappointment. Don't worry. I will do my best to suppress her internal injuries. Dong he pondered for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, if I risk my life, I should be able to suppress it for another 2 minutes. Sigh. 2 minutes is practically useless, Mu Feng said with a sigh. Xiao! Suddenly, a figure tore through the void and gradually appeared in everyone's field of vision. Ningyu, Lu Wei, who was beside the stone bed, hurriedly stood up and exclaimed in surprise. Senior Dong, this is a mid-grade good fortune pill. Please help Auntie consume it. Seeing the joy on Lu Wei's face, Ningyu hurriedly threw the life creation pill to Dong He and said loudly, the rest of you leave with me. Before Andy recovers, no one is allowed to disturb Senior Dong. Pa! After saying this solemn sentence, Ningyu grabbed Lu Wei's right arm and flew into the distance. Ningyu, will my mother definitely recover? With her arm grabbed by Ningyu, Lu Wei calmed down and asked, don't worry, with the life creation pill and Senior Dong's strength, Auntie will definitely recover to her peak state. In order not to worry Lu Wei, Ningyu said, you should be able to see Auntie early tomorrow morning. Well, thank you, Lu Wei said. It's fine. I promised to help you refine the life creation pill. I can't go back on my word. Ningyu waved his hand and said with a faint smile, rest well later. I will bring you to see Auntie early tomorrow morning. How unkind. You have a wife and forgot about us. Behind Ningyu, the Dark Emperor pursed his lips and said sourly, Red Skin, tell me honestly, how many royal grade origin crystals did Ningyu extort from that blood puppet patriarch? Recently, I lack royal grade origin crystals. I can ask for a few million to make do. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, the Red Devil's face darkened. Insatiable greed. This was the best way to describe the Dark Emperor. Damn it, Ningyu only extorted a total of 3 million royal grade origin crystals. If I give them all to you, what should we do? You should know that you are at the early stage creation realm while I am only at the peak of Yin realm. Redskin, you can't fight with me. Seeing that the Red Devil was silent, the Dark Emperor continued. You went out with Ningyu and must have eaten a lot of meat. I have to drink some of the soup, right? At the side, Duan Cheng's mouth twitched a few times. Ate a lot of meat? He was almost blasted to smithereens by Hang Su. After fighting with the blood puppet patriarch and the other freaks, Duan Cheng finally understood that his strength was the weakest among this group of people. Perhaps he was just a little stronger than that white puppy on the Dark Emperor's shoulder. Woof! However, just as this thought appeared in Duan Cheng's mind, Furball turned around and barked at him. Pissed. For some reason, Duan Cheng almost lost his footing and fell to the ground when Furball barked like that. If the Red Devil's face was filled with black lines just now, then Duan Cheng's entire body was filled with black lines now. The white puppy that he originally thought to be the weakest actually had such heaven-defying strength. Just a gaze and a roar made him feel uncomfortable all over, as if he was seen through. What kind of freaks are the people and dogs around Ningyu? Duan Cheng secretly made up his mind that he would never provoke Ningyu in the future, no matter what. He did not know that the people around Ningyu were strong, and he could still provoke Ningyu. However, after knowing that everyone around Ningyu was a powerhouse, he would still foolishly provoke Ningyu. That was not having a backbone, but idiocy. Oh, right. How did Ningyu refine the life creation pill? And it's a middle grade one. Duan Cheng frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. He could not understand how Ningyu's peak rank 6 soul strength could refine a middle grade life creation pill. Could it be that Ningyu is pretending to be weak? His soul strength is rank 8? Duan Cheng seemed to have thought of something, but he could not grasp it. Subsequently, Duan Cheng shook his head and threw these thoughts to the back of his mind. He quickly followed Ningyu and the rest out of the pill cavern. After leaving the pill cavern, Ningyu did not go too far away. Instead, he found a room closest to the pill cavern and stayed there. As for Mu Feng, he quickly left the forbidden area because there were still many things he needed to solve in Danwu College. Creak. In the room, Ningyu sat upright on a chair. The worry on his face had lessened a little. As long as the life creation pill could cure Lu Wei's mother, Lu Wei's emotions would not be affected too much, and the extreme Yin body would not break out prematurely. I have to find a way to completely solve the hidden danger of the extreme Yin body. Ningyu looked at Lu Wei on the other side and said with a slightly solemn expression, "Bang." However, just as Ningyu finished his sentence, the door was suddenly pushed open before his, but could even warm up. "Dean Mu? What's going on?" Ningyu stood up from the chair and asked hurriedly. "Ningyu, Ouyang Luan is back. He said he has something urgent to see you." Chapter 864. The situation is critical, Ouyang Luan. Hearing this, Ningyu was slightly startled at first, and then his expression changed drastically. Back when he left the capital, he gave Ouyang Luan the task of going to Tianqian City to protect Ningyu. Now that Ouyang Luan had returned to the capital, didn't that mean that the Ning family was in danger? "Dean Mu, bring me to Ouyang Luan." Thinking of this, Ningyu's face turned completely gloomy. He lifted his leg and left the room. As Ningyu left, the Dark Emperor and Fur Bull naturally followed closely behind. As for Lu Wei, after pondering for a moment, she chose to follow. After all, her mother would only recover the next morning. Rather than waiting here now, she might as well follow Ningyu to take a look. It's over, it's over, it's over, it's really over this time. In the conference hall of Danwu College, Ouyang Luan was pacing back and forth in panic. If this trip to Tianqian City could be described with one word, it would be a failure. If there was only one word to describe it, it would be a complete failure. He was a middle-stage creation realm martial artist. The other party's late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist actually defeated him in one move. Moreover, it was the kind of defeat without any suspense. Ouyang Luan still had a lingering fear when he recalled what had happened in Tianqian City. Bang! Right at this moment, Ningyu kicked open the door to the assembly hall and said in a low voice, "Ouyang Luan, what the hell is going on?" Ningyu. Seeing Ningyu's gloomy expression, Ouyang Luan's heart skipped a beat, but he still answered honestly, "The Ning family in Tianqian City has been controlled by someone." "Tell me exactly what happened. If you leave out any detail, you should know the consequences," Ningyu said. "When I went to Tianqian City a few days ago, the Ning family hadn't been controlled yet." Ouyang Luan didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly explained, "I even helped the Ning family's grand elder, Ning Tang, as well as the Ning family's ancestor, Ning He, to improve their cultivations, allowing them to all advance to the origin Dan realm. I also helped the Ning family's peerless geniuses of the younger generation, Ning Xian, Ning Hu, and Ning Xan, to improve their cultivations, allowing them to all advance to the true martial realm. However, good times don't last. 3 days ago, a mysterious force suddenly entered the Ning family. I will definitely resist. However, the mysterious faction is very powerful. One of them, a late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist, defeated me in one move. A late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist defeated you in one move? Hearing this, Ning Yu slightly frowned and asked, "Do you know the identity of the mysterious force? Is it the Blood God Palace or the Corpse Sect?" "It's not the Blood God Palace or the Corpse Sect." Ouyang Luan shook his head and said, "If it's the Corpse Sect or the Blood God Palace, they will most likely start a massacre in Tianqian City. Even I won't be spared." "That makes sense." Mu Feng, who was next to him, said. "Also, I can clearly feel that the mysterious force seems to be looking for something in the Ning family." Ouyang Luan continued. "Looking for something in the Ning family?" Ning Yu slightly frowned and had a faint guess in his heart. It's not the Blood God Palace, not the Corpse Sect, and they are looking for something in Ningyu. So they didn't start a massacre. All the signs indicated that the mysterious force is very likely to be from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. In other words, they are from the Ice Domain, the same force as Du Feng and Wan Quan. "You've provoked me." Ning Yu clenched his fists, and his face was very ugly. Whether it's the Supreme Nine Purities Temple or the people from the Ice Domain, since they have provoked him, then Ning Yu must take care of it. This matter needs to be considered at length. I can't be reckless. Ning Yu wanted to return to the Ning family as soon as possible, but he knew that there were still many things to do in the capital. It would not be good to leave without finishing them. First of all, Ning Yu learned from the half-step supremacy Dan Qi that he met in the Pill Cave that he mobilized 10 puppet warriors. Once 10 puppet warriors of the half-step supremacy realm descended on the Great Xia Kingdom, it would be a disaster for the Great Xia Kingdom. Although the Dan puppet, whose cultivation hadn't reached the supremacy realm, couldn't leave the Pill Cave, Ningyu had also heard from the Dan puppet about the young master. As the young master, he probably had a way to let the puppet warriors leave the Pill Cave. In addition to the threat from Dan Qi, there was also the threat from the blood puppet ancestor. There was even the threat from the Corpse Sect's venerable corpse dragon. All kinds of things appeared in Ning Yu's mind at the same time, causing Ning Yu's head to explode with pain. Ouyang Luan, go back to the Imperial Palace and make some preparations. We will set off for Tianqian City tomorrow. Hearing this, Ouyang Luan's body trembled. His figure flickered, and he left the conference hall. After Ouyang Luan left, Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Dean Mu, you go ahead. I want to be alone." Then, "All right." Mu Feng originally wanted to say something, but after seeing Ningyu's expression, he could only leave the conference hall. Ningyu didn't speak, and the Dark Emperor and the others didn't want to disturb him, so they found a place to rest. As for Lu Wei, she wanted to comfort Ningyu several times, but she resisted. Drip, drip. Time passed by minute by minute. In the blink of an eye, a night passed. When the first ray of sunlight shone into the conference hall, Ningyu stood up and said in a deep voice, "To the Pill Cavern." Hearing that they were going to the Pill Cavern, Lu Wei was very excited and hurriedly followed behind Ningyu. Phew! At the same time, inside the Pill Cavern, looking at the recovered woman on the stone bed, Dong he wiped the sweat off his forehead and let out a long sigh. "Luckily, I managed to save her." After a night of treatment and the magical effects of the elixir of rebirth, Dong he managed to pull Lu Wei's mother back from the brink of death. Rustle. At this moment, a few figures flew over from afar. "Senior Dong, thank you." Seeing that the woman on the stone bed had woken up, Ningyu hurriedly thanked Dong he. "Hee, it's nothing," Dong he said with a smile. "Senior Dong, let's talk over here." Seeing that Lu Wei was sprawled on the bed, Ningyu gave Hong Mo a look before flying straight into the depths of the Pill Cavern. Although Ningyu's actions puzzled Dong he still followed behind Ningyu and disappeared. As for Hong Mo, he naturally knew what Ningyu meant. He could not let Lu Wei get too emotional. If Lu Wei got too emotional, the consequences would be dire. Ningyu, why did you call me over? Dong, he asked curiously in the depths of the pill cavern. Dong, he did not understand why Ning Yu called him over. Generally speaking, if there was anything, he could just talk it over there, and there was no need for him to come here. Senior Dong, I'm sure you've heard of pill puppets. Ning Yu went straight to the point. Many pill puppets have appeared in this pill cavern. In fact, I've even killed a half-step supremacy pill puppet some time ago. Chapter 865 Mystic Moon Jade Pendant Hiss. Dong, he gasped. Dong, he sucked in a breath of cold air. As a senior member of the Alchemy Union and a first-grade human supreme, Dong, he had naturally heard of the pill puppet. Not only had Dong he heard of the pill cavern, but he had also fought with it before. The pill puppet that Dong he had fought with was a half-step supreme martial artist puppet. However, Dong he was only a half-step supreme martial artist at that time. He had to use a lot of effort to kill that puppet warrior. Now that he had advanced to a first-grade human supreme, he could easily kill the puppet warrior if he encountered it again. The only thing that shocked Dong he was the so-called young master. Among the pill puppets, those who could be called young master were at least first-grade human supreme. Senior Dong, I would like you to oversee the Danmu College and this pill cavern during this period. Ning Yu voiced out his thoughts and said, once the puppet warriors attack, I hope you can help us. Leave this matter to me. Dong, he said without thinking. In a few days, a few of my old friends will come to the capital. At that time, with a few of us guarding here together, I believe that even the young master of the Elixir Palace won't be able to gain any advantage. Also, Ning Yu continued, other than the threat from the pill puppet, there's also the blood puppet ancestor. Don't worry, the blood puppet ancestor won't be able to cause too much trouble. Dong, he waved his hand. Leave these two matters to me. All right, I'll leave it to you, Senior. Ning Yu had wanted to mention the venerable corpse dragon, but seeing Dong his confident look, he felt that it was better not to mention it. Anyway, he had already destroyed the corpses. It would be difficult for the venerable corpse dragon to find him through the dilapidated hall. Oh, right, what do you want to do? Dong, he thought about it. He felt that Ning Yu would not speak without thinking. Since he was begging him so seriously, there was most likely a reason. I'll be leaving the capital later and heading to Tianqian City. Ning, you didn't want to hide it from Dong he at all. He said honestly, and it's not good. However, before Ning Yu could finish a sentence, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly flew in the direction of Lu Wei. Just now, the Red Fiend sent back a message saying that Lu Wei's emotions had changed slightly. Lu Wei had an extreme Yin body, and her mood swings were extremely unpredictable. If she was not careful, she would completely explode. The consequences of the eruption of the extreme Yin body were unimaginable. Therefore, Ning Yu had no time to bid farewell to Dong. He and directly flew out. What's going on? Before Ning Yu arrived, his voice came first. It's fine now. Everything has returned to normal. The Red Fiend came forward and said hurriedly, Tell me the truth. Ning Yu transmitted his voice to the Red Fiend. Just now, Lu Wei's mother coughed twice, and her face was even a little pale. Fortunately, Dan Xingzi pointed out in time that it was a normal reaction. Otherwise, Lu Wei. The Red Fiend didn't finish the last few words, but the meaning was self-evident. No, I have to bring Lu Wei away. After a moment of silence, Ning Yu made this decision. The regeneration pill wasn't simple. In the next few days, Lu Wei's mother would cough, her face would turn pale, and she would even suffocate temporarily. If Lu Wei saw all of this, what would happen? Lu Wei's small heart definitely wouldn't be able to take it. Therefore, Ningyu decided to bring Lu Wei with him so that it would be convenient for him to use a secret technique to suppress Lu Wei when she exploded. Cough, cough, this is Ningyu, right? Jean told me everything. This time it's all thanks to you. On the stone bed, Li Qiaoyun coughed twice and said to Ningyu, if not for the regeneration pill that you refined, I might not have been able to wake up. Also, this should be Senior Dong. As she spoke, Li Qiaoyun shifted her gaze to Dong He, who was beside Ningyu, and said, You've done me a great favor, What great favor? It's nothing. Dong He interrupted Li Qiaoyun and said, The reason why Dong He interrupted Li Qiaoyun's words was obvious. Don't talk to me about great favor. I didn't treat you for benefits. Lu Wei, I'm going to Tianqian City later. Why don't you come with me? Seeing that Li Qiaoyun might have misunderstood, Ningyu quickly changed the topic and said, No, I want to stay in the capital to accompany my mother. Without a doubt, Lu Wei rejected Ningyu. Jean, I've recovered. You can follow Ningyu to Tianqian City. Li Qiaoyun said, Mother, but I want to spend more time with you. Lu Wei laid on the stone bed and said, Why do you want to accompany me? Aren't I all better now? Li Qiaoyun continued, I want to be alone. All of you can leave. Ningyu didn't expect Li Qiaoyun to help him so much. Could it be that Li Qiaoyun knew Lu Wei's true identity? Jean, since your mother said so, she naturally has her reasons. At this moment, Lu Drong said in a deep voice, Don't tell me you don't even listen to your mother. All right. Lu Wei felt a little upset. After all, this was the first time Lu Drong got angry at her. Ningyu, come with me. I have something to tell you. Lu Drong glanced at Ningyu and then walked straight into the distance. Ningyu followed behind Lu Drong. After stopping, Lu Drong handed Ningyu a purple jade pendant and said, 18 years ago, Jean appeared in my room out of nowhere. This jade pendant was with Jean at that time. This jade pendant. Receiving the blue jade pendant, Ningyu's body trembled. Because Ningyu knew what this jade pendant was. It was the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant. The Mystic Moon Jade Pendant had a very big effect, which was to suppress the extreme Yin body and prevent it from exploding. Of course, there were a total of 2 Mystic Moon Jade Pendants. One Mystic Moon Jade Pendant couldn't completely suppress the extreme Yin body and could only suppress it for a dozen years. Although Ningyu didn't know when Lu Drong removed the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant from Lu Wei, Ningyu was sure that it wasn't too long ago. Otherwise, Lu Wei would have already exploded. You might need to investigate Jean Er's background. However, I hope that Jean can live a peaceful life in the future. Lu Drong sighed and said, I will take good care of Lu Wei. Although Ningyu didn't mention it, he felt a little helpless in his heart. An extreme Yin body wants to live a peaceful life? It's harder than ascending to the heavens. You guys leave. I will persuade Jean to leave with you as soon as possible. Lu Drong continued, If that's the case, thank you, Uncle Lu. Ningyu bowed deeply towards Lu Drong before tearing through the void and leaving the Pill Cavern. Before leaving, Ningyu had already informed the Dark Emperor and the others through spiritual transmission. In fact, Ningyu even informed Dong He. The Dark Emperor and the Red Devils wouldn't choose to stay in the capital. They tore through the void and disappeared behind Ningyu. Master. Seeing the Dark Emperor and the Red Devils leave, Duanqing bit his lips and said hesitantly, Go. You can learn a lot by following Ningyu. Dong, he knew what Duanqing was thinking. He didn't urge him to stay. After all, everyone had their own judgment. Chapter 866. Too young. Russell. Dongwu College's conference hall. Many people had already gathered in the conference hall. Among them, the Black Widow, the Black and White Heroes, old ancestor Jiumo, and Mu Feng sat on one side. Ningyu, the Dark Emperor, the Red Devil, and Duancheng sat on the other side. If there's anything you need during this trip to Tianqian City, feel free to let me know. I'll do my best to satisfy you. Mu Feng said after a moment of silence. Ningyu had done so many things for Dongwu College. If Ningyu needed anything, Mu Feng would definitely agree to it without hesitation. If there's a need, there's nothing. We'll set off immediately after Lu Wei arrives. After saying this, Ningyu thought for a moment and continued, The only thing I need to do is to arrange a quiet place for Pavilion Master Lu and the others to stay and ensure that no one will disturb them. It's a small matter. I'll arrange it as soon as possible, Mu Feng said. Swish! At this moment, a figure streaked across the void and appeared in front of the conference hall. It was none other than Lu Wei. Lu Wei's eyes were slightly red, and she looked pitiful. Dean Mu will take our leave for now. Seeing Lu Wei coming over, Ningyu stood up and bid farewell to Mu Feng before leaving the conference hall. Behind Ningyu, the Dark Emperor Furball, the Red Devil, Duancheng, Ouyangluan, and even the Silver Winged Dragon and the Twin-Horned Beast followed closely behind. Initially, Ningyu wanted the Silver Winged Dragon and the Twin-Horned Beast to stay in the capital. However, since they were unwilling, Ningyu could only give up. Dean Mu, did something happen in Tianqian City? Why did Ningyu mobilize so many people? Looking at Ningyu's departing figure, Ancestor Jiu Mo asked doubtfully. Moreover, I don't understand why Ningyu brought Lu Wei along. After all, Lu Wei's cultivation is very low. A mysterious force came to Tianqian City and took control of the Ning family, Mu Feng explained. As for why Ningyu brought Lu Wei with him, I don't know either. All right. Forefather Jiu Mo sighed and fell silent. Xiao xiao xiao. In a dense forest somewhere, a group of martial artists was advancing quickly. I really don't understand. There's such a good path to take. Why do you have to take this God-forsaken place? Among the martial artists, a large black dog complained in the human language. Don't talk too much. Beside the large black dog, a thin martial artist said in a low voice, Do you think I don't want to walk the open road? Do you really have to come to this place? Isn't that so? The Dark Emperor muttered. Screw you. The thin martial artist was Ningyu. He kicked the Dark Emperor's buttocks and said angrily, When we left the capital, there were at least 10 groups of people following us. If we didn't take a detour, do you think we could get rid of them? Duancheng and Ouyangluan were shocked when they heard Ningyu's words. Along the way, they were puzzled as to why Ningyu had to take a detour. Now, it seemed that it was because their perception was weak and they couldn't detect the people following them. If we can't get rid of them, then we won't. With our strength, even if the people following us are peak manifestation realm martial artists, we can still kill them, the Dark Emperor said proudly as if he was not afraid of anything. Is that so? However, as soon as the Dark Emperor's arrogant words fell, a faint voice came from the void. Crack! Then the void cracked, and a group of 4 martial artists appeared. Hiss! Seeing the 4 martial artists that suddenly appeared, Ouyangluan and Duancheng's expressions changed and they gasped. It wasn't that Ouyangluan and Duancheng were timid, but the cultivation of the 4 martial artists in front of them was simply too high. Half-step supremacy realm. 4 half-step supremacy realm martial artists. Although Duancheng knew that Ningyu was very powerful, and he had also seen Ningyu kill Subo, who was infinitely close to the half-step Supreme Being realm, and capture Hang Su alive, the cultivator in front of him was a half-step Supreme Being. Moreover, there were 4 half-step supremacies. How could Ningyu fight against such a lineup? I still haven't gotten rid of you. Ningyu's expression was slightly solemn as he said in a deep voice, Speak! Why are you following us? Why? One of the half-step supremacy realm martial artists with squinted eyes smirked and said, Su Shen, Holei, you should have heard of them. I know. You are from the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Ningyu instantly reacted. Su Shan and Ho Lei were peerless geniuses from the 7th and 8th branches of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Moreover, they had both died at his hands. It was just that Ningyu was a little puzzled. At that time, he had repeatedly confirmed that Su Shan and Ho Lei hadn't spread the news. How did these Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion geniuses know that he was the one who did it? Curious? Seeing Ningyu's expression, the squinted martial artist gloomily said, "The influence of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion is not something you can imagine. Let me tell you the truth. In the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, the 7th, 8th, and 9th branches have already issued a Nine Cauldrons hunting order. As long as a genius of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion runs into you, they will kill you without mercy. Since that's the case, I have nothing else to say." Ningyu slowly spat out a breath of turbid air. He lightly said, "Then let's fight." Wong wong. As Ningyu's words fell, the entire area seemed to come to a standstill. The atmosphere was stifling, as if a great battle was about to break out at any moment. "Ningyu, they are all half-step supremes. Do you really want to clash with them?" Duanqing was a little afraid. He wanted to ask if there was any chance of a turnaround. "I killed the half-step supremes of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's 7th, 8th, and 9th branches. Do you think there's any chance of a turnaround?" Ningyu said as he glanced at Duanqing. "All right, it looks like we can only fight," Duanqing helplessly said. "Wrong." The squinted martial artist stretched out his right hand and coldly said, "In truth, there is still a chance of a turnaround. It just depends on whether or not you are willing to cooperate." "What's the matching method?" Ningyu asked while adjusting his state. "The Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion has always taken the responsibility of recruiting geniuses. As long as you relax your mind and let me control you, then the others can live." The squinted martial artist wanted to sow dissension and disintegrate the relationship between Ningyu and Duanqing from the inside. "Haha, this move of yours has no effect on me." Ningyu faintly smiled and said, "Don't take everyone for fools. The reason you didn't attack immediately was because you were afraid of me. You were afraid that I had the strength to kill all of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sent 4 half-step supreme beings to encircle and kill me. You know very well that since I was able to kill Su Shan, Ho Lei, and Gu Yuan, I have the ability to kill any one of you." After listening to Ningyu's story, Duanqing felt a little ashamed. The squinted martial artist's attempt to sow dissension had indeed had some effect. If it weren't for Ningyu promptly mentioning the squinted martial artist scheme, Duanqing might have even opened his mouth to persuade Ningyu. Chapter 867. Opinionated. Pa, 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 pa. Hearing Ningyu's words, the squinted martial artist clapped his hands and smiled. "I admit that what you said is the truth, but so what? What can it change? We have 4 half-step supremes on our side. What do you have to fight with us? Song Gongwei, why are you wasting your breath on them? A mere half-step manifestation realm martial artist. I don't believe he can do anything." Zhu Gongxiong raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, "Zhu Gongxiong, don't say that. Ning, you can even kill Su Shan and the others. It's best to be careful when dealing with him." Lei Zhuang was still a little afraid of Ning Yu's strength. "Haha, Lei Zhuang, I don't agree with you. The last 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion half-step supremes, Changda, smiled and said, I think Zhu Gongxiong is right. Su Shan and the others were killed because they were careless. If it were us, we definitely wouldn't have been killed." "Don't say any more. The 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion is a gathering place for geniuses, not an assassin's nest. We need to discuss this properly and not use force to solve it." Song Gongwei waved his hand and lightly said, "Ningyu, I'll give you one last chance. Open your mind and let me inject a wisp of my soul force into your sea of consciousness. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Ning Yu had been listening to Song Gongwei and the others' conversation. After a while, Ning Yu said, "Are you done?" "Not yet. I still want to continue." Song Gongwei acted as if he didn't understand Ning Yu's words and continued, "Continue my ass." Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. His figure shot out and rushed toward Song Gongwei. At the same time, Ning Yu shouted at Duan Qing and the others, "You guys take Lu Wei and leave first. I'll stop them." Shua, Duan Qing and the others didn't dare to be negligent. Hearing Ning Yu's words, they immediately left with Lu Wei. Including Lu Wei, a total of 5 martial artists left. Duan Qing, Ouyang Luin, the Silver Winged Dragon, and the Twin Horns Beast. The 4 of them didn't have much combat power. Staying behind would only add to the chaos, and it was impossible for them to be of any use. "You want to leave?" Seeing that Lu Wei and the others were about to leave, Lei Zhuang and Chang Da's lips curled up slightly as they laughed sinisterly in unison. "It's not that easy." "Hee hee. You 2 stay behind to deal with the others. Leave those 5 pieces of trash to me." A lewd smile appeared on Zhu Gangxiong's face as he said loudly, "I just happen to be lacking a cauldron. In my opinion, using that woman as a cauldron is the best." "Ha ha ha. Since Gangxiong is so refined, we won't interfere. We'll give them to you." Lei Shuang and Changda laughed and joined the other side of the battlefield. As for Zhu Gangxiong, he smiled lecherously as he chased after Lu Wei and the others. "Dark Emperor, Furball, help me stop them. I'll be right back." Although Ning Yu was fighting with Song Gongwei, he was constantly paying attention to the situation of Lu Wei and the others. Especially when he saw Zhu Gangxiong chase after Lu Wei, Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. He quickly forced Song Gongwei away and tore through the void to disappear. "Where are you going?" Song Gongwei's eyes shone with a cold light. He clenched his fists and suddenly shot out 2 cold rays. Chi-chi. The cold rays were very fast, and each ray cut through the void and made a hissing sound. On the other hand, Ning Yu didn't even turn his head. It was as if he didn't notice the fist rays coming from behind him. "I really don't know how you killed Gu Yuan. How could you be so stupid?" "What?" Song Gongwei seemed to see Ning Yu's miserable state after being hit by the fist rays, and his lips involuntarily curled up. However, halfway through his sentence, Song Gongwei's eyes widened, and his face filled with disbelief. Boom! Boom! This was because Song Gongwei saw 2 figures, one black and one white, quickly cut through the void and blocked the 2 fatal fist rays for Ning Yu. Damn it! Song Gongwei's expression turned ugly when his fist rays were blocked, especially when the ones who blocked the fist rays were not martial artists, but 2 dogs. Song Gongwei couldn't take it anymore. "The 2 of you, don't make a move first. Leave these 2 dogs to me." Seeing that Lei Zhuang and Changda were about to make a move, Song Gongwei said in a deep voice, "I want to see what these 2 mad dogs are capable of." As soon as he said the word patience, Song Gongwei shot out explosively. His target was the Dark Emperor and Furball. Lei Zhuang and Changda were happy to be idle. They crossed their arms in front of their chests and shifted their gazes to the other side of the battlefield. On the other side, Ning Yu was already fighting with Zhu Gangxiong. "Ning Yu, others might be afraid of you, but I'm not." Zhu Gangxiong's lips curled up as he said coldly, "Today I will carry out justice on behalf of the heavens and thoroughly kill you." "Why do you speak so much nonsense? How can you say things like carrying out justice on behalf of the heavens? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" Ning Yu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out a sword wave. Whoosh! A sword wave as thick as a waist shot out in midair and instantly arrived in front of Zhu Gangxiong. Insignificant skill. Facing the sword wave that was constantly attacking him, Zhu Gangxiong waved his sleeves and a cold radiance instantly flew out. Boom! The cold radiance and the sword wave clashed, creating a loud rumble. After the rumble, Zhu Gongxiong floated in midair, slightly stunned. Zhu Gongxiong discovered that Ningyu had mysteriously disappeared. Trying to hide in front of me? Come out. Zhu Gongxiong's entire body released his aura, which continuously spread in all directions with him as the center. Crack, crack. Zhu Gongxiong was a half-step supremacy martial artist, and his aura was very terrifying. The aura that spread in all directions snapped countless towering trees in half. Zhu Gongxiong's aura continuously increased, but he still did not discover any traces of Ningyu. Not even a shadow could be seen. Where did he go? Zhu Gongxiong was not a fool. He knew that if this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. After withdrawing his aura, Zhu Gongxiong frowned slightly and started to use his perception. The perception of a half-step supremacy was still very powerful. So he was hiding here. Zhu Gongxiong had just used his perception when he found Ning Yu's location. 5 meters to the west. After discovering Ning Yu's location, Zhu Gongxiong said without batting an eyelid, "Ning Yu, don't think that I can't find you just because you are hiding well. To tell you the truth, there has never been a half-step manifestation martial artist who could hide from my perception." As Zhu Gongxiong spoke, he walked in the east direction. Zhu Gongxiong's goal was very clear: to make Ningyu careless and lower his guard. 3 more steps. After 3 steps, I will suddenly turn around and attack. Zhu Gongxiong moved his feet, secretly counting the number of steps he took. First step. Zhu Gongxiong's expression did not change at all, and he still looked as calm as before. Second step. Zhu Gongxiong's expression started to change slightly, but he controlled it very well. Third step. Chapter 868. Chapter 868. Divine Might Poof. However, before Zhu Gongxiong could move for long, he heard the sound of a flying sword piercing into his body. This, Zhu Gongxiong first looked at the blood-red flying sword in front of his chest. Then he raised his head to look at the familiar figure in front of him. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, his body fell backwards. Hong Mo, get rid of him as soon as possible. Ning Yu's tone was emotionless as he said indifferently, "Chi, Chi." After receiving Ning Yu's order, the Hong Mo immediately controlled the red demon sword to unleash a violent, devouring power. In the blink of an eye, Zhu Gongxiong was completely devoured. Seeing that the Hong Mo had devoured Zhu Gongxiong, Ning Yu's figure flashed, and he instantly appeared beside the Dark Emperor and Furball. Because Ning Yu had acted quickly, it only took him a few minutes to kill and devour Zhu Gongxiong. Thus, the Dark Emperor and Furball were only heavily injured and not killed. Even so, Ning Yu's expression was very ugly. "Ning Yu, why are you only here now?" The Dark Emperor used his trump card to repel Song Gongwei and complained, "This bastard is very strong. Furball and I are not his match. Go and recuperate first. Leave the rest to me." Ning Yu casually threw a storage bag to the Dark Emperor and said. The Dark Emperor caught the storage bag, and after checking the number of crystals inside, he nodded in satisfaction and flew to the other side to recuperate. As for Furball, Ning Yu did not hold back either. The storage bag filled with 1 million royal-grade origin crystals was taken away by Furball. "What's going on? Zhu Gongxiong, what?" The sudden change made Song Gongwei and the others a little dumbfounded. Wasn't Ning Yu fighting with Zhu Gongxiong? Why did Ning Yu come so quickly? One had to know that Zhu Gongxiong was a half-step supreme being. No matter how weak he was, he should be able to block Ning Yu for half an hour or so. However, When Song Gongwei saw a skeleton in the distance, his voice stopped abruptly and he sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhu Gangxiong turned into a skeleton. This discovery gave Song Gongwei a surreal feeling. Song Gongwei could not understand why Zhu Gangxiong, who was in the half-step supremacy realm, would be devoured until only a skeleton remained. It was hard to understand. Gulp! Even Song Gongwei was shocked. One could imagine how Lei Zhuang and Changde were feeling. Zhu Gangxiong's fighting strength was ranked second amongst the four of them. Ning Yu had killed Zhu Gangxiong so easily. If he wanted to kill them, wouldn't it be as easy as killing an ant? Don't panic. The reason why Ning Yu was able to kill Zhu Gangxiong is because he used all his trump cards. Seeing Lei Zhuang and Changde panic, Song Gongwei said in a low voice, "According to my observations, Ning Yu doesn't have much origin energy left." As long as the three of us attack together, killing him will be as easy as blowing off dust. Song Gongwei, you're the strongest. You go first. We'll bring up the rear. Lei Zhuang knew what Song Gongwei was planning. Zhu Gangxiong and Song Gongwei were members of the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion's 7th branch, while he and Changde were from the 8th branch. In the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion, every branch cherished their high-end fighting strength. Every time they lost a half-step supremacy realm martial artist, they would feel the pain for a long time. Now, Song Gongwei's actions were clearly to make them his pawns and send them to their deaths. Damn it! Song Gongwei cursed inwardly. His feet stepped on the ground, and his body instantly shot forward. At the same time, Song Gongwei shouted out, "All of you go chase after those people that escaped. Everyone related to Ning Yu. Do not let a single one of them go." This is great. Lei Zhuang and Changde were overjoyed. They rushed out. Their targets were Lu Wei and Duancheng. Solitaire. How could Ning Yu allow Lei Zhuang and Changde to leave? Although Lu Wei and the others had left a long time ago, with Lei Zhuang and Changde's speed, they could catch up in a dozen or so minutes. Once Lu Wei was caught, the consequences would be inconceivable. Thus, Ning Yu flicked his wrist, sending out several sword waves. Whoosh! In the air, countless sword waves flew out. Half of them attacked Lei Zhuang and Changde, while the other half surrounded Song Gongwei. You want to rely on these sword waves to trap me? How could it be so easy? Song Gongwei's eyes gradually turned blood red. The origin energy in his spiritual sea crazily poured into his wrist as he punched the sword waves in front of him. Bang! Song Gongwei was truly worthy of being a peerless genius of the 9-furnace Divine Pavilion. He used all his strength to disperse the sword wave around him effortlessly. Of course, Song Gongwei's fistlight was also completely offset by the sword waves. If Song Gongwei could block the sword waves, then Lei Zhuang and Changde could also block them if they joined forces. Song Gongwei, didn't you say you wanted to stop Ning Yu? What the hell is going on? Although he blocked the sword waves, Lei Zhuang and Changde still shouted, "If you don't use your full strength to deal with Ning Yu, everyone will die." You're right, you will all die. Lei Zhuang and Changde had just finished speaking when a faint voice was transmitted into their ears. Hearing this, Lei Zhuang and Changde were startled. Then they revealed looks of horror. Go. Ning Yu didn't care about Lei Zhuang and Changde's reactions. He naturally wouldn't miss out on such a rare opportunity. With a low shout, Ning Yu flicked his sleeves. A cold light suddenly flew out from his sleeves. Flower bud. The cold light that flew out from Ning Yu's sleeves was the flower bud. For some reason, when Ning Yu killed Zhu Gangxiong, the flower bud didn't have the slightest reaction. But just now, the flower bud suddenly erupted with an extremely strong desire to leave Ning Yu's body. If not for Ning Yu suppressing it, the flower bud's first target would definitely be Song Gongwei. Lei Zhuang and Changde were two people. If they wanted to escape, Ningyu couldn't chase after them. Thus, Ningyu chose to let the flower bud deal with Lei Zhuang and Changde first. Puchi, the flower bud didn't disappoint Ningyu. Lei Zhuang and Changde didn't even have time to scream before they turned into nothingness. Wang Wang, the flower bud originally had 6 petals. After swallowing Lei Zhuang and Changde, it seemed like it was going to have 5 petals. There's another one over there. Ningyu pointed at Song Gongwei on the other side and said. Hearing this, Song Gongwei's mouth twitched a few times. What the F***CK is going on? How could a flower bud on a small branch possess such terrifying combat power? Killing a half-step honorable realm martial artist was as easy as chopping vegetables. This was truly effortless. Run! At this moment, there was only one word in Song Gongwei's mind, and that was to run. Song Gongwei didn't have the confidence to go against such a powerful flower bud. In fact, Song Gongwei didn't even have the confidence to last a minute against a flower bud. If he didn't even have the confidence to stay, wouldn't he be courting death? Want to leave? It's not that easy. Flower bud, go. Chapter 869. Besieged. Surrounded. Oh no! Although Song Gongwei was a half-step to honorable realm martial artist and was very fast, the flower bud was faster than him. Song Gongwei had just escaped a dozen meters when his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly wrapped the essence chi in his sea of consciousness around his wrist and threw out a shocking fist radiance. Chi. The result was no surprise. Song Gongwei's fist radiance was at an absolute disadvantage in the confrontation with the flower bud, and it was quickly devoured. 3 flower palm. At the critical moment, Song Gongwei forced out a drop of blood essence and waved his hands continuously. Suddenly, a palm print separated from his palm. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The so-called 3 flower palm, as the name suggested, had a total of 3 palm prints. Song Gongwei did not disappoint. After the palm print separated from his palm, it split into 3. Song Gongwei was more ambitious. 2 of the palm prints were aimed at the flower bud, while the last one was aimed at Ningyu. Song Gongwei's thinking was simple. As long as he could block the flower bud and kill Ningyu, everything would return to normal. Once Ningyu died, the flower bud would lose its power, and he could even pick up a flower bud for free. Dreams were great, but reality was harsh. Song Gongwei's thinking was great, but reality shattered him. The flower bud quickly cut through the void and devoured the 2 palm prints that Song Gongwei had thrown out in an instant. After devouring the palm prints, the flower bud did not turn its head. Instead, it started fighting Song Gongwei. On the other side, Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out several sword radiants. Whoosh! The sword radiance and the palm prints collided. Song Gongwei's palm prints were quickly dispersed. Song Gongwei is indeed skilled. He can actually fight against a flower bud head-on. After dispersing the palm prints, Ningyu turned around and looked at the battle between Song Gongwei and the flower bud. He frowned slightly. After seeing the flower bud kill Lei Zhuang and Changde easily, Ningyu thought that it could at least fight against a grade 1 human supreme. However, the current situation made Ningyu slightly disappointed. The flower bud's strongest combat power should be between the half-step supremacy realm and the supremacy realm. Ningyu, this flower bud is really too awesome. With it, we can even easily kill a supreme being, right? The Dark Emperor quietly came to Ningyu's side, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and said, "Why don't you listen to me in the future? Use you as bait, and let's do some get lost." Ningyu kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and said snappily, "Only you can think of such a rotten idea. Hee, let's talk it over." The Dark Emperor did not get angry after being kicked by Ningyu. Instead, he chuckled. "We can discuss it." Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said without batting an eyelid, "How about this? You're the purple gold sky devouring hound. As long as we use you as bait, I'm sure many people will come looking for trouble with us. When the flower bud makes its move, won't those troublemakers be devoured by you?" The Dark Emperor was speechless. "After all that, you're using me as bait? I'm the purple gold sky devouring hound. When the time comes, instead of attracting half-step supremacies and first-grade human supremacies, we might attract many second-grade or even third-grade human supremacies." Although the Dark Emperor had high hopes for the flower bud, seeing how it struggled to deal with Song Gongwei, who was a half-step supremacy realm expert, the Dark Emperor did not believe that the flower bud could deal with a second-grade human supremacy, let alone a third-grade human supremacy. "Let's not use me as bait. How about using Redskin as bait?" The Dark Emperor glanced at Hong Mo, who was standing beside Ningyu, and said, "Red Skin is the spiritual body of a royal flying sword. With him as bait, the effect won't be any worse than mine." "Scram, I'm giving you face, and you want to go to heaven?" Ningyu raised his leg to kick the Dark Emperor and said, "You are a genius. Why don't you go to heaven?" Don't. We can discuss it." The Dark Emperor easily dodged Ningyu's attack and said loudly, "At most, we can use me as bait." Rumble. Just as the Dark Emperor finished his words, the battle on the other side also came to an end. Pucci. The flower bud found an opportunity and used one of its petals to pierce Song Gongwei's heart. "Ningyu, you have offended the 9 Cauldrons' divine pavilion. Even if you run to the ends of the world, you will still be killed." Before Song Gongwei died, he used all his strength to roar, "If you can repent and surrender, you might still be able to live." Pucci. Before Song Gongwei finished his threat, he spat out another mouthful of blood. At this moment, the peerless genius of the 9 Cauldrons' divine pavilion, Song Gongwei, who was a half-step supremacy, died in battle. Wang. Just like Lei Zhuang and Changda, after the flower bud killed Song Gongwei, it directly devoured him and turned him into nothingness. After devouring 3 half-step supremacy realm cultivators, the number of petals on the flower bud finally increased from 6 to 5. Swish! After that, the flower bud turned into an afterimage and went back into Ningyu's sleeve to lie dormant. Luckily, there is a flower bud. Otherwise, we would all be dead. Even now, Hong Mo still had lingering fears. Although he and Ningyu could kill Zhu Gongxiong if they joined forces, killing Song Gongwei would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This was because even 3 Zhu Gongxiong might not be a match for Song Gongwei. "Let's go." Since Song Gongwei and the others had already been killed, there was no need for Ningyu to stay here. Waving his hand, Ningyu was the first to fly into the distance. Waving his hand, Ningyu was the first to fly into the distance. "Red Skin, are we not even going to clean up the battlefield?" Looking at Ningyu's back, the Dark Emperor hesitated. "Clean up my ass. Song Gongwei and the others can find us. Even if we clean up the battlefield and don't leave any traces, the people of the 9 Cauldrons' divine pavilion will know that we killed Song Gongwei." Hong Mo rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor. Then he stepped on the ground and dashed away. That seems to make a little bit of sense. The Dark Emperor smacked his lips. Then he grabbed Harry Ball and chased after Ningyu. Sha! While Ningyu and the others were rushing forward, not far away, Lu Wei, Duancheng, and the others encountered a new problem. At the end of the forest, Duancheng, Ouyingluan, and the others had their backs against each other, forming a semicircle. Lu Wei was in the middle of the semicircle. Her face was slightly pale. "Who are you people? Why are you attacking us?" Duancheng turned around and looked at Lu Wei's pale face. His face turned completely dark. He stared at the dozen martial artists in front of him and said coldly, "Why are we attacking you?" In front of Duancheng, there were a total of 18 martial artists. Apart from the leading martial artist, who was at the half-step supremacy realm, the other 17 martial artists were all at the peak of the manifestation realm. Moreover, their attire was a little special. They did not look like people from the Great Xia Empire. They did not even look like people from the Sky Demon region. Why are we attacking you? You should ask the woman behind you about this. Chapter 870. Just for fun. What? Extreme Yin Body. When Duansheng and Ouyang Luan heard the words of the half-step Supreme Being Realm Cultivator, their eyes widened with extreme fear. Ouyang Luan in particular was extremely shocked. More than 10 years ago, there was an absolute expert who passed by the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, that peerless expert had described the general appearance of a woman and asked Ouyang Luan to search for her after 10 years. Ouyang Luan kept his word. Some time ago, he had locked onto Lu Wei according to the description of the peerless powerhouse. However, due to Ning Yu's various obstructions, the plan was ultimately put on hold. As for the crystal ball that the peerless master had left for Ouyang Luan had always kept it with him and had never mentioned it to Ning Yu. How could Ouyang Luan not be shocked when a half-step supremacy realm martial artist said that Lu Wei had an extreme Yin body? Shocked, Ouyang Luan took out the crystal ball from his bosom. Sound transmission ball. Ouyang Luan had just taken out the crystal ball when the half-step supremacy realm martial artist's expression changed drastically. He exclaimed in shock, "How could you possibly have the 6 Moons Supremacy's sound transmission ball?" 6 Moons, Venerable? Ouyang Luan was slightly taken aback and said, "I don't know who 6 Moons Venerable is." "Humph, you're about to die, yet you still dare to quibble. Since you don't know, I will tell you. Listen carefully." The half-step supreme martial artist said coldly, 6 Moons Venerable is an elder of our sacred heaven sect. He was a 6th grade human supreme more than 10 years ago. Hiss! Ouyang Luan could not help but gasp. 6th grade human supreme martial artist. Furthermore, he was a 6th grade human supreme martial artist more than 10 years ago. Didn't that mean that the 6 Moons Venerable's cultivation was at least at the 7th or 8th grade sovereign realm? Hand over the voice transmission ball. Don't make me say the same thing twice. The half-step supremacy realm martial artist stretched out his hand and said calmly. Ouyang Luan's eyes flickered indeterminately. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Do you think I'm a fool? If I give you the voice transmission ball, you'll definitely break it. When 6 Moon Venerable arrives, how are we going to survive?" After much consideration, Ouyang Luan still chose to stand on the same boat as Ning Yu. The more Ouyang Luan interacted with Ning Yu, the more he felt that Ning Yu was terrifying. Ouyang Luan would have definitely chosen Ning Yu even without the heavenly Tao oath. Good, very good, very good. The half-step Supreme Being's face darkened completely as he said coldly, "Among all the manifestation realm cultivators that I, Yan Yi, have met, you are one of the more arrogant ones. Maybe you haven't seen me fight before, so you don't know my true strength." Yan Yi pondered for a moment, then continued, "When I was at the peak of the manifestation realm, I fought against a grade 1 human sovereign. When I advanced to the half-step sovereign realm, I encountered a grade 2 human sovereign and 3 grade 1 human sovereigns. Guess what happened? After a fierce battle, the 3 first-grade human supremes all died in battle, and the 2nd-grade human supremes also fled." Pucci. As soon as Yan Yi finished speaking, a peak manifestation realm cultivator behind him couldn't help but laugh out loud. Others might not know that Yan Yi was bragging, but the 17 cultivators that came with Yan Yi knew exactly what happened. When Yan Yi advanced to the half-step sovereign realm, there were indeed 4 cultivators surrounding him. 3 of them were grade 1 human sovereigns, and 1 was grade 2 human sovereign. However, the 4 cultivators surrounding him were all heavily injured. His true battle strength was only about 10%. Otherwise, with Yan Yi's strength, he would have long been dead. How could he still be acting cool here? One must know that in the Sacred Heaven sect, Yan Yi's strength could only be ranked in the lower middle among all the half-step sovereign realm cultivators. Courting death, Yan Yi was happily acting cool, but his own people came out to mess things up. How could Yan Yi tolerate this? As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Yi disappeared instantly. Smack! In the next moment, a crisp sound rang out. The peak manifestation realm cultivator, who couldn't help but laugh, just now had 5 bright red palm prints on his face. Disobeying orders, go to the disciplinary hall to receive. Yan Yi said coldly, "There's no need to go to the disciplinary hall. Just do it here." An indifferent voice interrupted Yan Yi's words. "Who?" Yan Yi's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly turned to look. Swoosh! 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 3 figures approached from afar and landed in the area in the blink of an eye. Ningyu, the Dark Emperor, and the Red Devil. On the Dark Emperor's back, there was a white puppy lying on it, looking charmingly naive. Half-step manifestation realm. Feeling the aura emanating from Ningyu, Yan Yi was stunned at first. Then he laughed maniacally. I was wondering which peerless expert it was. So it's just a half-step manifestation realm cultivator. What's wrong with the people of the Great Xia Kingdom? All of them are extremely arrogant, as if they're all geniuses that only appear once in 10,000 years. As he spoke, Yan Yi revealed a puzzled expression and said exaggeratedly, "Tell me, what do I have to do for you to let them go?" At the start, Ningyu wanted to start a massacre. However, when he saw Lu Wei's pale face and trembling body, Ningyu could only choose to settle things peacefully. After all, Lu Wei had an extreme Yin body. Once it exploded, the consequences would be unimaginable. Oh, it seems like you also know that Lu Wei has an extreme Yin body. Yan Yi rolled his eyes and said sinisterly, "Since that's the case, things will be much easier. Open up your mind and let my soul power enter your consciousness. Once I control you completely, I'll naturally let Lu Wei go." "All right, I promise you," Ningyu said without hesitation. "No." Upon hearing Ningyu's words, everyone, including the Red Devil, the Dark Emperor, and even Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan, objected. As the silver winged dragon and the twin-horned beast had already isolated all sounds around Lu Wei could only see the situation in front of her and could not hear anything. "I know what I'm doing." Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for the Red Devil and the rest not to worry. Thereafter, Ningyu walked towards Yan Yi step by step. Ningyu walked very slowly. As he advanced, Ningyu's mind spun, and he quickly thought of a countermeasure. Yan Yi wanted to control Ningyu. But how could Ningyu not want to control Yan Yi? As long as he could control the leaders of both sides, everything would become very simple. 10 steps, 9 steps. As Ningyu advanced, Yan Yi was secretly counting the distance. 3 steps, do it! When Ningyu was only 3 steps away from Yan Yi's eyes turned cold. He stomped on the ground and rushed out. "Sha!" Seeing that Yan Yi had made his move, Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan hurriedly moved to block Lu Wei's eyes. Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan had some understanding of the extreme Yin body and knew that the emotions of the extreme Yin body could not fluctuate too much. Otherwise, there was a high chance of an explosion. "Brat, do you think I want to control a trash? I only asked you to come over to have some fun. Ha ha ha." Yan Yi clenched his right fist and punched towards Ningyu's heart. Chapter 871. Devour them all. Chapter 871. Devour. Since you want to play, I'll play with you. Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out as well. On the surface of the fist, a violent fluctuation of yuan qi appeared. Yan Yi's heart trembled slightly when he felt the energy contained in Ning Yu's fist. He was slightly shocked. From Yan Yi's point of view, Ning Yu was only a half-step manifestation realm warrior. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't be that strong. In fact, Yan Yi felt that he didn't even need to use his full strength to kill Ning Yu. I have to use my full strength. At this moment, Yan Yi changed his view of Ning Yu. The energy in his sea of consciousness surged out again and wrapped around his fist. He threw a backhand punch that couldn't be avoided and collided with Ning Yu's fist. Swoosh! Swoosh! After the fists collided, the two figures rapidly retreated. Yan Yi had to retreat more than 10 steps before he could stabilize himself. On the other hand, Ning Yu only managed to stabilize himself after taking 3 steps back. The difference between the two was obvious. Whoosh! Yan Yi's move put him at a disadvantage. The expressions of the 17 peak manifestation realm warriors that he had brought along also changed drastically. Although the 17 peak manifestation realm warriors knew that Yan Yi was just putting on an act, Yan Yi's true strength was still very strong. Yan Yi, who was a half-step supremacy realm warrior, was infinitely close to a first-grade human supremacy. How could they not be shocked that the skinny man opposite them was able to gain the upper hand against Yan Yi? Very good. However, the one who was the most shocked was Yan Yi. Yan Yi never expected that he, a mid-tier genius of the Sacred Heaven sect, would be evenly matched with Ning Yu. In fact, he was even at a slight disadvantage. You've completely infuriated me. I'm going to tear you apart. Yan Yi clenched his fists tightly and charged forward once again. This time, Yan Yi was enraged. He swore that he would tear Ning Yu apart and let Ning Yu see what true strength was. Ning Yu could not be bothered to waste his breath on Yan Yi. He immediately drew out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword ripples. Without the red demon, the power of the red demon's sword would be greatly reduced. Yan Yi easily blocked the sword wave that Ning Yu had sent out. Then he began fighting Ning Yu in midair. The battle between Yan Yi and Ning Yu caused the 17 martial artists at the peak of the manifestation realm that Yan Yi had brought to burst into an uproar. What's going on? How can the Great Xia Kingdom have such an absolute prodigy? That's right. I also find it a little strange. Logically speaking, even the strongest martial artist in the Great Xia Kingdom shouldn't be this powerful. I suspect that martial artist is definitely not someone from the Great Xia Kingdom. I don't care if he is from the Great Xia Kingdom. We better hurry up and capture the extreme Yin physique, or else Yan Yi will be infuriated. That's right, let's go and catch the extreme Yin body. The martial artist who was the most enthusiastic was the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm who was reprimanded by Yan Yi. He wanted to perform well so that he could ask Yan Yi for mercy and see if he could avoid going to the disciplinary hall. Swoosh! However, not long after the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm dashed out, a ray of cold light shot down from the sky. Flower bud? Seeing the true face of the cold light, the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm was slightly stunned. Uft! However, it was this short moment of stupor that became the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm's final song in the Great Xia Kingdom. Without a doubt, the flower bud swallowed him in an instant, leaving nothing behind. Whoosh! The flower bud swallowed a martial artist at the peak of the creation realm in an instant, causing the expressions of the other 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm to change drastically. Everyone, let's attack together. I'm still not. Uft! A bold martial artist at the peak of the creation realm said in a deep voice. However, no matter how bold he was, it was useless in front of the flower bud. After swallowing the first martial artist at the peak of the creation realm, the flower bud did not even stop and immediately began its second devouring journey. Ah, ah, ah. Various screams rose and fell, continuously assaulting the vision and hearing of Duancheng and the others. It was too brutal. Those were all martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. They were actually devoured just like that. Duancheng and Ouyangluan had goosebumps all over their bodies. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Swoosh! 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. 3 minutes. The flower bud spent 3 minutes to completely devour the 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. After devouring the martial artists at the peak of the creation realm, the flower bud made a turn in the air and once again returned to Ning Yu's side. Hee, have you lost your mind? Why did you bring out this lousy flower bud to fight with me? Do you think it can be the key to our victory? Yan Yi sneered. I'm not sure if it can decide our victory or defeat. However, I know that none of the 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that you brought were spared. All of them have become food for the flower bud. Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, Humph, who doesn't know how to boast? The martial artists I brought are all exceptional geniuses of the Sacred Heaven sect. A mere flower bud dares to dream of what? Yan Yi snorted coldly and could not help but look down. This glance caused Yan Yi to be stunned on the spot. Yan Yi realized that the 10 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that he brought had all disappeared. Baffling. What the hell? At this moment, these words appeared in Yan Yi's mind. They were all fine just now. Why did they disappear in the blink of an eye? Yan Yi unleashed his perception, hoping to find some clues. Stop looking. The matter is already very clear. The 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that you brought were all killed and devoured by the flower bud. Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating for Yan Yi not to waste his energy. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Up until now, Yan Yi still could not believe it. 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm were devoured and killed by an unknown flower bud, just like that? If this matter were to spread, others would definitely think that he had lost his mind. Spatial artifact. Yes, it's a spatial artifact. Suddenly, Yan Yi seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, The flower bud in your hand must be a spatial artifact. Moreover, it's the kind that can store people. If you know what's good for you, then throw the flower bud over. Otherwise, I'll make sure you suffer the consequences. You want the flower bud. Ning Yu raised his brows and said calmly, Since you want it, I'll give it to you. As he spoke, Ning Yu flicked his wrist and threw the flower bud to Yan Yi. After devouring 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm, Ning Yu faintly realized that the 5th petal on the flower bud had an urge to disappear. In other words, as long as the flower bud could devour Yan Yi, it would definitely disappear completely. Ning Yu was looking forward to what would happen after the petals on the flower bud completely disappeared. One had to know that every time the flower bud transformed, its combat strength would increase exponentially. Once all 5 petals disappeared, one could imagine how terrifying the flower bud would be at that time. Chapter 872. Chapter 872. Sacred Heaven Sect. Humph. Throwing the flower bud over so easily. There's definitely something fishy going on. Yan Yi snorted coldly, then waved his hands repeatedly. Instantly, a cold gleam flew out from his sleeves. Stop, Yan Yi bellowed, hoping that the cold gleam could block the flower bud in midair. TSK, TSK. However, there was always a huge difference between ideal and reality. The moment the cold gleam that Yan Yi shot out touched the flower bud, it was completely devoured. Not a single ripple was stirred up. What? Yan Yi's expression changed drastically. Yan Yi was very confident in the cold gleam that he threw out. Even a peak manifestation realm martial artist might not be able to gain the upper hand against it. However, the reality was that the cold gleam was devoured by the flower bud in an instant. At this moment, Yan Yi finally felt a little nervous. It seemed like what Ningyu said earlier was most likely true. Want to devour me? It's not that easy. Although he had guessed a certain possibility, Yan Yi did not want to resign himself to death. First of all, his cultivation was not at the peak of the manifestation realm, but a genuine half-step supreme being. Secondly, his strength was much stronger than a peak manifestation realm martial artist. At the critical moment, Yan Yi took out a purple flying sword from his chest. The flying sword was about 3 feet long, and it contained a violent fluctuation of vital energy. Yan Yi held the flying sword and slashed down from the sky. Crack! However, Yan Yi had still underestimated the flower bud's strength. His king-rank middle-grade flying sword broke into 2 halves in an instant. Such a change was clearly not what Yan Yi had expected. Damn it, Yan Yi was not that kind of stubborn person. After his king-rank middle-grade flying sword broke, he cursed and directly tore through the void, wanting to leave. Bang! In the eyes of the flower bud, Yan Yi was delicious. How could it let him go? Therefore, Yan Yi had just tore through the void, and before he could escape, he was struck in the chest by the flower bud, his body flying several feet away. Hold on, I have something to ask him. Seeing that the flower bud wanted to devour Yan Yi, Ningyu hurriedly flew to the side of the flower bud, blocking it. Buzz! The flower bud was obviously displeased to be stopped by Ningyu. It began to sway rapidly in the air. All right. The 1 million royal grade origin crystals in the spatial ring are all yours. For the sake of appeasing the flower bud, Ningyu had no choice but to give up the remaining 1 million king grade origin crystals in his spatial ring. Xiao! The flower bud seemed to have a mind of its own as it burrowed directly into the storage ring and went into hibernation. Yan Yi, what's your relationship with Du Feng and the rest? Ningyu sorted out his thoughts and asked, Du Feng is from the ice domain. Are you also from the ice domain? Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan knew that Yan Yi came from Ice Domain's Sacred Heaven sect, but Ningyu didn't. Don't even think of getting any information out of me, Yan Yi said coldly. You have to think this through. The 17 martial artists at the peak of the Fate Realm that you brought with you have already been devoured by the flower bud. If you continue to be stubborn, you will definitely end up like them, Ningyu said calmly. If I tell you, will you let me go? Yan Yi was originally prepared to die, but he changed his mind after hearing Ningyu's words. Yan Yi rolled his eyes and said, I am indeed from the ice domain. Furthermore, I'm from the most powerful sect in the ice domain, the Sacred Heaven sect. Lu Wei is the person that the Sacred Heaven sect master personally ordered to find. I advise you not to get involved in this matter. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Ice domain, Sacred Heaven sect. Hearing this, Ningyu couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The ice domain was different from the sky demon domain. The sky demon domain didn't have overlord level sects, but the ice domain did. The Sacred Heaven sect was an overlord level sect in the ice domain. The Sacred Heaven sect could be called the most powerful sect in the ice domain. No other sect could shake its overlord status. It's good that you know. If you know what's good for you, let me go as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Sacred Heaven sect. Oh, right, your friend has a sound transmission ball. Yan Yi originally wanted to use the Sacred Heaven sect to scare Ningyu. However, after thinking about it, Yan Yi felt that it was more practical to use the thing in front of him. Yan Yi pointed at Ouyang Luan and said, That sound transmission ball belongs to Supremacy, Lu Moons. Supremacy Lumoons is a 6th grade supreme martial artist. I believe that Supremacy Lumoons will definitely rush over in 10 minutes. Sound transmission ball? Ningyu frowned slightly. That's right. It's a sound transmission ball. Yan Yi said, if you let me go, I can put in a good word for you in front of Supremacy Lumoons. At that time, you might even have the chance to join the Sacred Heaven sect. Aren't you forgetting something? Ningyu looked at the crystal ball in Ouyang Luan's hand and hesitated for a moment. I've seen quite a few sound transmission balls in the past. I've also heard a little about their usage. The so-called sound transmission ball can only be broken by the other party. You said that Supremacy Lumoons will be here in 10 minutes. What are your intentions? Swish. Yan Yi thought that he had already done a good job pretending, but he didn't know that he was displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Ningyu knew how to use the sound transmission ball. Don't bother with those empty words. You just need to tell me if there are still people from the Sacred Heaven sect in the Great Xia Kingdom. Ningyu said in a low voice. Definitely, Yan Yi said without hesitation. Aside from us and Du Feng, there are still a large number of Sacred Heaven sect martial artists on their way. The sect master has already sent out the Sacred Heaven order. Whoever can bring the extreme Yin body back to the ice region in one piece will obtain a position as a core disciple. According to my estimates, there are at least a few hundred martial artists coming from the ice region. Although Yan Yi was exaggerating a little, it was not a big deal. There were indeed quite a number of people from the Sacred Heaven sect coming to the Great Xia Kingdom. Even if there weren't a few hundred, there were at least a few dozen. So many people. Ningyu frowned and fell into deep thought. If it was really as Yan Yi said, then the situation would become more and more dangerous. Blood God Palace, Corpse Sect, 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. These 3 forces all had a grudge against Ningyu. Adding on the Supreme 9 Purities Temple and the Ice Region Sacred Heaven sect, Ningyu felt that his strength was no longer enough. He had to rush to the creation realm. Now, Yan Yi had been paying attention to Ningyu. While Ningyu was thinking, Yan Yi took the opportunity and punched with all his strength. TSK, TSK. Yan Yi's fist was very fast. It even made a hissing sound as it rubbed against the air. Furthermore, in order to kill Ningyu in one move, Yan Yi didn't even hesitate to burn his essence blood to increase the power of his fist. Life and death depended on this move. Brat, to be able to die in my hands, consider it your good fortune from your previous life. Yan Yi seemed to be able to see Ningyu's tragic death and couldn't help but laugh maniacally. Is that so? Ningyu's reaction to Yan Yi's actions was very indifferent. He raised his brows and crossed his arms in front of his chest. You think I'm not prepared? Swish. Chapter 873. Initial Stage of the Manifestation Realm. Chapter 873. Initial Stage of the Manifestation Realm. What? Yan Yi's expression changed drastically when he saw the flower bud attacking him. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. To be honest, Yan Yi didn't expect Ningyu to react in time. He had launched a sneak attack. If Ningyu could notice his sneak attack, didn't that mean that Ningyu had been guarding against him all along? Yan Yi quickly retracted his fist and turned to run. He wasn't the flower bud's match for the first time. If he continued to fight like a fool, he would only be devoured mercilessly. Yan Yi wasn't a fool. If he couldn't win, he should run. Yan Yi knew this principle. However, it was too late for Yan Yi to escape now. The flower bud cut through the air and arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. It entered his body through his heart. Uft! Yan Yi felt a tearing pain in his heart. He wanted to say something, but spat out a mouthful of blood instead. His body trembled uncontrollably. I gave you a chance to live, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Ningyu came to Yan Yi's side and said plainly, "Since that's the case, you should go and accompany your friends." "TSK, TSK." The flower bud seemed to understand Ningyu's words and devoured Yan Yi in an instant. Yan Yi couldn't understand how a half-step manifestation realm warrior from the Great Xia Kingdom could have such terrifying combat power. It was a pity that Yan Yi would never be able to find the answer for the rest of his life. Ice region, sacred heaven gate. After the flower bud devoured Yan Yi, Ningyu frowned and murmured. Although the divine heaven sect was far away from the sky demon region, it was extremely powerful. A force like the blood god palace would never be able to catch up. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was having a headache over the sacred heaven gate, an earth-shattering rumble came from the flower bud. "What's going on?" The sudden change made Ningyu's expression change. He hurriedly shifted his gaze to the flower bud. This caused Ningyu's mouth to open slightly, and his face was filled with confusion. In midair, the fifth petal on the flower bud had completely disappeared. The disappearance of the fifth petal was not what shocked Ningyu the most. What shocked Ningyu the most was that the other 4 petals on the flower bud disappeared at the same time. The complete disappearance of the petals also meant that the flower bud no longer existed. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, Ningyu was dumbfounded. The flower bud had disappeared. The flower bud was his strongest trump card. If the flower bud disappeared, his battle prowess would drop by at least 50%. In the past, he could easily kill a half-step honorable realm martial artist by relying on the flower bud. Now that the flower bud had disappeared, it would be difficult for him to even contend against a half-step supremacy realm martial artist like Yan Yi, let alone kill him. Bang! As soon as Ningyu swallowed, he noticed that the branch of the world tree had changed a lot. At the top of the branch, there was actually a sprout. The flower bud disappeared and the sprout appeared. Could this small branch of the world tree be the core of the world tree? Ningyu's eyeballs moved, and he thought of this possibility almost instantly. Generally speaking, something like a withered tree coming back to life was very rare. Since this branch could produce a flower bud and sprout, it was enough to show that this branch was very special. At the very least, it was the main path of the world tree. At the thought of this, Ningyu revealed a joyous expression. Perhaps this sprout before him could really grow into a world tree. Swoosh! While Ningyu was still rejoicing in his heart, the sprout suddenly shot out a huge energy light pillar. The energy light pillar flew directly towards Ningyu. Looking at the energy light pillar flying towards him continuously, Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva again. The sprout could actually give feedback. In the past, Ningyu's cultivation had broken through time and time again from the feedback of the flower bud. Now that the sprout's feedback of energy was extremely rich, Ningyu decided on the spot to break through to the creation realm. Hongfiend, you guys stay away for now. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately sat down cross-legged and circulated the spirit transformation technique to absorb the energy from the sprout while instructing Hongfiend and the rest to leave first. Let's go! Hongfiend seemed to have guessed that Ningyu was going to break through to the creation realm. After saying that, he quickly left. Duancheng and the rest also left hurriedly. They were not fools. Once Ningyu advanced to the creation realm, that kind of aura would definitely be very powerful. If they were close, it would not be good if they were affected. Devour! Ningyu automatically shielded himself from the outside world's interference. His soul power entered his consciousness and controlled the golden core to devour the terrifying energy that the sprout fed back. Although it was called energy, it was not. It was best described as holy energy. After the flower bud turned into a sprout, the speed at which it absorbed holy energy was obviously much faster. However, the speed at which the sprout absorbed and devoured holy energy was exactly the same, so it was still unable to leave any holy energy for Ningyu. Therefore, Ningyu especially cherished this huge pillar of energy. Pist, pist, pist. In Ningyu's consciousness, the huge golden core kept devouring the energy. Almost every minute that passed, the energy fed back by the sprout decreased a little. About an hour later, swoosh! Ningyu stood up with a swoosh. His early-stage grade 7 soul power also entered his consciousness, cooperating with the golden core to devour the energy. Time passed by minute by minute. Ningyu was not anxious, but the Dark Emperor on the other side was very anxious. Hung Fiend, what are the chances of Ningyu advancing to the creation realm? What are the chances? Of course, it's 100%. Hung Fiend rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor and said, 100%? I don't believe it. Ningyu doesn't have a creation elixir. So how can he advance to the creation realm? I heard that humans have to have a creation elixir to advance to the creation realm. The Dark Emperor pursed his lips and said, Rumble. However, just as the Dark Emperor pursed his lips, he was stunned on the spot. An extremely terrifying aura shot into the sky. Sensing the terrifying aura that shot into the distance, the Dark Emperor could not help but gasp. Damn it, it's too terrifying. Are you sure that Ningyu has only advanced to the creation realm? Duan Cheng and Ouyangluan could not believe their senses. How was this advancing to the creation realm? Even a half-step supremacy martial artist would not be able to catch up to this aura, right? It's indeed the creation realm, and it's only early-stage creation realm. Hong Fiend's senses were very strong. He could clearly tell that Ningyu was only early-stage creation realm and not half-step supremacy. Ningyu has advanced to the creation realm. The silver winged dragon had already removed the seal on Lu Wei's hearing, so Lu Wei could hear Hong Fiend and the rest's conversation. It could be said that other than not knowing that she had the extreme Yin body, Lu Wei knew everything else. Phew! Ningyu did not know that Lu Wei and the rest were shocked. At this moment, Ningyu let out a long breath and muttered to himself while staring at the mystic moon jade pendant in his hand. Chapter 874. Check them one by one. Chapter 874. Ever since he got the mystic moon jade pendant from Lu Drong, Ningyu kept it with him and did not pass it to Lu Wei. The reason why Ningyu did not pass the mystic moon jade pendant to Lu Wei immediately was not because Ningyu wanted to keep it for himself, but because Ningyu realized that the seal on the mystic moon jade pendant had loosened. The mystic moon jade pendant in this state could be easily discovered by those who were observant. Rather than leaving it with Lu Wei, it was better for Ningyu to keep it with him. This way, he could slightly suppress the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant. Now that he had advanced to the manifestation realm, all the problems would be solved. Seal it for me. Ningyu waved his hands continuously. In a split second, numerous cold rays flew out and entered the mystic moon jade pendant. Swoosh! Not only that, Ningyu also released his grade 7 beginner soul power and wrapped it around the surface of the mystic moon jade pendant. Drip! Drip! In order to completely conceal the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant, Ningyu was extremely focused. He did not even have the time to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Time passed by minute by minute. In the blink of an eye, another half an hour had passed. Fortunately, the seal has only loosened and not completely dissipated. Otherwise, even if I advanced to the manifestation realm, it would be difficult to conceal the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant in such a short period of time. Looking at the mystic moon jade pendant that had its aura concealed, Ningyu wiped the sweat on his forehead. Since the problem of the mystic moon jade pendant had been solved, there was no need for Ningyu to carry it with him. Swoosh! In a flash, Ningyu arrived beside Lu Wei. Wear this. Ningyu passed the mystic moon jade pendant to Lu Wei and said, after receiving the jade pendant, Lu Wei wore it around her neck without asking why. Let's go to Tianjin City. Seeing Lu Wei put on the mysterious moon jade pendant, Ningyu waved his hand and took the lead to fly towards mysterious Sky City. Seeing Ningyu set off, the Dark Emperor and the others were first stunned, and then they chased after him. To be honest, the Dark Emperor and the others all knew that Lu Wei had the extreme Yin body, and also knew that the emotions of the extreme Yin body could not fluctuate too much, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. In the eyes of the Dark Emperor and the others, the best way was to let Lu Wei enter the storage ring. This was the best way to solve the problem. Of course, all of this was built on the premise that the Dark Emperor and the others didn't know about the mystic moon jade pendant. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't have such thoughts in their hearts. Tianjin City. The turmoil among the four big families in Tianjin City ended with the victory of the Ning family. The Ning family had also become the well-deserved overlord of Tianjin City. Under the leadership of the Ning family, Tianjin City was thriving, and there were very few cases of stealing. However, recently, the Ning family might have encountered some unforeseen event, and the members of the family were always frowning and dejected. Even the acting patriarch of the Ning family, Ning Tang, rarely showed his face in Tianjin City. Bang! At this time, in a certain room of the Ning family, the acting patriarch of the Ning family, Ning Tang, slapped the chair beneath him and said coldly, "They are really too much to actually ground us. Grand Elder, why don't I think of a way to leave the Ning family and go to the capital to look for Ningyu?" In the room, other than Ning Tang, there were four other martial artists. The geniuses of the Ning family, Ning Xian, Ning Xian, Ning Hu, and the Ning family's patriarch, Ning He. At this time, Ning Xian said in a deep voice, "I heard from that mysterious person that Ningyu is very strong, and is a top genius even in Danwu College." Top genius? What's the use of a top genius? Ning Tang said angrily, "Do you know what the cultivation level of that mysterious person is?" "What cultivation level?" Ning Xian asked doubtfully. "Creation realm," Ning Tang said. Even a creation realm martial artist was easily defeated. "Do you think that you can help us if he rushes back?" "In my opinion, it's best that Ningyu doesn't come back, or else the last descendant of the Ning family will be controlled." But Ningyu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he was attracted by the sound of a door being broken. Bang! Outside the door, a young man about 20 years old kicked the door open and swaggered in. "Who is the patriarch of the Ning family?" The young man did not beat around the bush. After entering the room, he said directly, "I give you 5 minutes to gather all the members of the Ning family between 15 and 25 years old in the martial arts arena. If even one is missing, you should know the consequences." With that, the young man left the room on his own. 5 minutes later, in the Ning family's martial arts arena, the younger generation of martial artists stood in one area, and the rest of the martial artists stood in another area. In the middle of the martial arts arena, there were 3 martial artists sitting on the round table. Staring at the martial artists on the round table, except for a few brave ones, the rest of the Ning family were trembling. Ahem! One of the martial artists on the round table coughed twice and said in a clear voice, "Don't panic. We mean no harm. We are only here to find one person. As long as you cooperate, when we find that person, we will give the Ning family the best cultivation resources. The best. Zhanggu, don't waste time. Hurry up and start." Before the martial artist finished speaking, another young martial artist on the round table waved his hand and said impatiently, "All right." The martial artist called Zhang, who took out a crystal ball and said loudly, "All the martial artists between 15 and 25 years old, come up one by one and force a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. As long as the crystal ball shines, we will leave. You, the first one." Zhang Gu's eyes fell on the nearest martial artist, Ning Guang, the genius of the Ning family's younger generation, 15 years old. Ning Guang came to the round table and carefully forced a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. Not qualified. 3 seconds later, seeing that the crystal ball was still intact, Zhang Gu said in a deep voice, "Next." While Zhang Gu was testing slowly, the other 2 martial artists began to talk. "Higuan, are you sure the person we are looking for is in the Ning family?" One of the 2 martial artists, who was slightly older, said, "I'm sure. That bastard must be in the Ning family." Higuan dared to show his impatience to Zhang Gu, but to Lu Qiong he could only smile. In the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, Lu Qiong was in the early stage of the Fate Realm. She was ranked 4th on the genius list. As for him, although his cultivation was similar to Lu Qiong's, there was a huge difference in their strength. On the genius list, he could only rank around 20. Zhang Gu's cultivation was even lower, half a step into the Fate Realm. He was ranked 50th on the Supreme Nine Purities Temple's genius list. "What's the use of your guarantee?" Lu Qiong said in a deep voice. "This time, we are not the only ones who came to the Great Xia Kingdom. Even Yin Hua, who is ranked 3rd on the genius list, came to the Great Xia Kingdom. If Yin Hua finds that bastard first, you should know the consequences better than me. I know this, but Yin Hua has something wrong with his brain. He actually didn't look in the Ning family, but went to the magic Beast Mountain Range." Chapter 875. Arrive in time, be that as it may. We still have to be prepared. If we can't find that little bastard in the Ning family, we'll have to immediately head to the mountain range of magical beasts. Lu Qiong was not as brainless as Higuan. He was more rational. "That's right. We have to be prepared." Higuan first agreed with Lu Qiong before he turned around and scolded, "Zhang Gu, hurry up and finish the examination within 10 minutes. Hearing this, Zhang Gu's eyebrows slightly furrowed, his face revealing a displeased expression. However, Zhang Gu's back was facing Higuan, so Higuan did not notice. "Humph! With so many people here, how can we finish the inspection in 10 minutes? Zhang Gu snorted inwardly, but on the surface he said in a clear voice, "One person is too slow. Let's do it together." Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 peerless geniuses of the Ning family came to the round platform and forced a drop of blood onto the crystal ball. As expected, the crystal ball was safe and sound. Time was ticking away. As time went by, Lu Qiong's expression became colder and colder. Glancing at the remaining 10 or so young martial artists, Lu Qiong said in a low voice, "Looks like that bastard isn't in the Ning family." Hua! When Higuan heard Lu Qiong's words and saw Lu Qiong's facial expression, his heart skipped a beat. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Higuan was very smart. In order to prevent Lu Qiong from getting angry, he jumped to Ning He's side. "Pa!" Higuan slapped Ning He on the cheek and said coldly, "Old B** starred, tell me, is there anyone who hasn't come yet?" Puff! Although Ning He had advanced to the origin core stage with Ouyingluan's help, he still had no room to fight back when facing Higuan, who was at the initial stage of the creation stage. Spitting out blood and teeth, Ning He said, "All the members of the Ning family are here. No one is missing." "Humph! You're about to die, yet you're still so stubborn." Higuan didn't believe that everyone from the Ning family was here. As far as he knew, the so-called genius of the Ning family, Ning Yu, was not here. "If I don't see Ning Yu in 3 minutes, you'll be dead." Higuan's expression was indifferent and his tone was cold. Ning He turned his head away and chose not to speak. "Oh, you're pretty tough, huh? Since that's the case, let me loosen your old bones." Ning He's reaction made Higuan very unhappy. He raised the corner of his mouth and immediately punched Ning He's chest. Bang! The huge force that came from his chest caused Ning He to fly several feet away and directly fall at the entrance of the martial arts practice field. "I'm done." At this moment, Zhang Gu's voice came from the round platform. There's no one who fits. Ka. Originally, Higuan was very dissatisfied with Ninghe. Now, hearing Zhang Gu's words, he was even more furious. He stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. Old fart, I'll let you know the consequences of offending me. Higuan was furious. He was furious to the extreme. It didn't matter if they couldn't find him. The key was to embarrass him in front of Lu Qiong. Lu Qiong was a genius ranked 4th in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Not only was she powerful, but she also had a powerful background. If he offended Lu Qiong, he would have a hard time in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Old ancestor, run. Seeing Higuan rush out, Ning Tang, the great elder of the Ning family, hurriedly moved and stood in front of Higuan. Get lost! The enraged Higuan kicked Ning Tang's body, causing him to pass out. After kicking Ning Tang away, Higuan's figure quickly cut through the void and came to Ning. He sighed in the blink of an eye. I didn't want to kill you, but it's a pity that you dissatisfied me again and again. I have to grind your bones and scatter your ashes. Higuan didn't attack immediately. Instead, he slightly tidied up his clothes and said lightly, After you go to hell, learn to be smart. You'd better not resist when people who are stronger than you ask you to do something. Otherwise, you'll die an ugly death. Pooh! You can only jump around in Tianqian City. There are many people in the Heavenly Devil Territory who are more powerful than you. Why don't you find trouble with them? Ning he spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, Ha. I, Higuan, like to bully people who are weaker than me. What can you do to me? Higuan looked up to the sky and laughed. He can't do anything to you, but I don't know what I can do to you. After Higuan laughed, an indifferent voice came from a distance. Rustle! Immediately, several figures appeared in Higuan's line of sight. Who do you think you are to talk to me like this? At this time there were still people who dared to mock Higuan, which made Higuan very angry and unhappy. Swoosh! As Higuan's gloomy words fell, he clenched his right hand into a fist and blasted the thin figure standing beside Ning He with a violent Yuan Qi gale. Crack! Next, a crisp sound rang out. Then, like a kite with a broken string, Higuan's body retreated several feet away. Boom! The sudden change made the warriors in the entire martial arts practice field change their faces. They all looked at the teenager beside Ning He in shock. Gulp! After a short period of shock, someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Ningyu, when did he become so strong? Ning Xian's mouth was slightly open, his face full of disbelief. Could it be that Brother Ningyu's cultivation has reached the manifestation stage? Ning Xian's mouth was a little dry. Even after saying this, he himself felt very shocked. In any case, Brother Ningyu is back. We will definitely be saved. Ning Hu, who is simple and honest, scratched his head and said, Ah. The discussion in his ears made Higuan's face turn red, and he let out a hysterical roar. Ningyu, your name is Ningyu. How dare you cripple my right hand? I will tear you apart. Higuan roared. Ning, you did not care whether Higuan roared or not. He stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. Higuan not only seriously injured Ning He, but also wanted to kill Ning He. How could Ningyu bear it? Since he could not bear it, then he would teach Higuan a lesson. Even if he could not kill him, he would let him know who he could offend and who he could not. Buzz! However, before Ningyu came to Higuan, Lu Qiong, who was on the round platform, suddenly rushed out and blocked Ningyu's fist for Higuan. After one move, both Ningyu and Lu Qiong took a few steps back. Early stage of the manifestation stage, Lu Qiong stared at Ningyu with a hint of shock on her face. Lu Qiong was very confident in his strength. In the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, except for the top 3 monsters, almost no martial artists in the early stage of the manifestation stage could compete with him. But now this martial artist in the early stage of the manifestation stage could be evenly matched with him. Although he did not use all his strength, he knew that the other party must not have used all his strength either. Early stage of the manifestation stage. While Lu Qiong was looking at Ningyu, Ningyu was also looking at Lu Qiong. To be honest, Lu Qiong gave Ningyu a great shock. Chapter 876. The seventh move Ningyu, the genius of the Ning family, known as the star of hope for the rise of the Ning family. Lu Qiong's expression did not change much. She first evaluated Ningyu, then changed the topic and said coldly, "However, you must pay for injuring Higuan." Ouyang Luan, the people you met at the Ning family, are they them? Ningyu ignored Lu Qiong and spoke to Ouyang Luan in a deep voice. The three of them are the leaders, the rest. Ouyang Luan did not dare to be negligent. That's enough. Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted Ouyang Luan. He then said, "This is the Ning family. Did you get permission from the Ning family to behave atrociously here? Is there something wrong with your brain?" Lu Qiong was slightly startled. "We are from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. We can go wherever we want. Do we need to report to you? Humph. This is the Ning family. It is not a place for you to behave atrociously." Ningyu snorted and scolded. "I don't care if you are from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple or the Nine Purities Temple. In short, if you cannot get the forgiveness of the Ning family today, then there is no need for you to live in this world." Ha ha ha. Not only did Lu Qiong burst into laughter, but even Zhang Gu, who was on the round platform, also laughed out loud. And nobody from the Ning family of the Xia kingdom dared to speak to the genius who ranked fourth in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple in such a manner. Either he was itching for a beating, or he was tired of living. "Remember my name. I am Lu Qiong. This name will be your nightmare in leveling up." After laughing, Lu Qiong's eyes turned cold. She waved her sleeves quickly. An ray of cold light flew out and headed straight for Ningyu. Whoosh! The speed of the cold light was so fast that it made a sizzling sound as it rubbed against the air. Hong Mo, evacuate all the members of the Ning family. Treat those who are injured and help those who are not. Ningyu did not take the cold light that was rushing towards him to heart. Instead, he instructed the Red Fiend and the others to evacuate the crowd. Although the martial arts practice field was large, if they fought here, the Ning family's children would definitely be affected. Only when the Ning family retreated with all their might could Ningyu fight Lu Qiong for real. In Ningyu's mind, although Lu Qiong was rather arrogant, she was still very strong. At the very least, he was the strongest genius that Ningyu had faced at this stage. "Humph! How dare you get distracted while fighting me? I'll let you know what true strength is." Seeing that Ningyu was ignoring her, Lu Qiong snorted coldly and dashed out. Boom! Before Lu Qiong reached Ningyu, Ningyu swung his sleeve and easily dispersed the cold light that Lu Qiong shot out. After dispersing the cold light, Ningyu's fist collided with Lu Qiong's fist. When the two fists collided, a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions from the point of contact. Fortunately, the Red Fiend had evacuated the children of the Ning family in time. Otherwise, the aftermath alone would be enough to kill most of the Ning family members. "You've completely infuriated me." Lu Qiong took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Originally, I didn't intend to start a massacre in the Ning family. However, since you've disobeyed me time and time again, I can only do as I wish." "Zhang Gu," Lu Qiong said coldly. "Here," Zhang Gu replied. "Kill everyone from the Zhang family without mercy." Lu Qiong's tone was filled with intense killing intent. Yes. Bang. The ideal was perfect, but the reality shattered Lu Qiong's dream into pieces. Zhang Gu had just responded. but before he could start his massacre, he was hit by a black figure and fell off the round platform. What? The sudden change made Lu Qiong's expression change drastically. He was not surprised that Zhang Gu had been defeated. After all, Zhang Gu's cultivation was only half a step into the manifestation state. He was relatively weak. What shocked him was the person who defeated Zhang Gu. To be precise, it was the dog that defeated Zhang Gu, the black dog. Ningyu, you can just kill these pieces of trash. Why go through so much trouble? Most importantly, after the black dog defeated Zhang Gu, it complained to Ningyu. Lu Qiong was speechless. Since when did a dog dare to be so arrogant? Looks like I'm ignorant. At that moment, Lu Qiong calmed down. He ignored Zhang Gu and Higuan. Instead, he took out a crystal ball and said calmly, I mean no harm. As long as you force a drop of blood on it, I'll leave immediately. Whoosh! As he spoke, Lu Qiong flicked his wrist and tossed the crystal ball at Ningyu. Crack! How could Ningyu catch the crystal ball? With a thought, the red devil's sword appeared in Ningyu's hand. With a slash of the sword, the crystal ball was directly cut into two halves without any fancy moves. This is my chance. Seeing that the crystal ball had been split in half, Lu Qiong quickly tore the void with his hands and entered it. Do you want to play this trick with me? Seeing that Lu Qiong had disappeared, Ningyu closed his eyes and released his powerful senses to detect Lu Qiong's location. Suddenly, Ningyu held the red devil sword in his hand and stabbed it above his head. Oh no! Lu Qiong did not expect Ningyu's senses to be so powerful. He hastily stopped in midair and retreated. However, before Lu Qiong could organize a second round of attacks, he saw that Ningyu was holding the red devil sword and slashed down a sword ripple in the air. The sword ripple was about the thickness of a person's waist and contained a terrifying wave of vitality. What? It's the solitaire. You're the son of a bitch that we've been looking for. Lu Qiong was a peerless genius ranked fourth on the Supreme 9 Purities Temple's Genius Leaderboard. Naturally, he had cultivated the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill. In fact, Lu Qiong had not only cultivated the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, but he had also cultivated up to the 8th form. In the past, Lu Qiong thought that he had cultivated the 6th form, solitaire, to the extreme. Now that he had seen Ningyu perform the solitaire, even a genius like him felt ashamed of his inferiority. The 7th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, Sword Ripple. Lu Qiong would not sit and wait for death. He immediately took out the flying sword that he carried with him and injected the vitality in his consciousness into the flying sword. He slashed out a sword ripple in the air. In midair, two sword ripples that were as thick as a person's waist collided with each other like two angry tigers. Whoosh! The vitality waves that scattered in all directions almost enveloped the entire martial arts field. Fortunately, Ningyu had the foresight to evacuate the Ning family members. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, all the martial artists in the martial arts field shifted their gazes to the air. Everyone wanted to see whether the sword ripple produced by Ningyu or the sword ripple produced by Lu Qiong would win. Ha ha ha! Ningyu only performed the 6th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, while senior brother Lu Qiong performed the 7th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill. There's no comparison at all. Higuan seemed to have expected the outcome. He laughed wildly and said coldly, Chapter 877. To kill each other. Shut up, kid. The Dark Emperor couldn't stand Higuan's arrogance. Although the sword wave unleashed by Lu Qiong seemed to be quite powerful, however, it did not mean that he could defeat Ningyu for sure. Even if Lu Qiong's sword ripples could defeat Ningyu's sword ripples, it had nothing to do with Higuan. Pa pa pa! The Dark Emperor's figure flashed and arrived beside Higuan in the blink of an eye. His claws slapped Higuan's face repeatedly. Several crisp, sounds rang out in the martial arts arena. It even attracted the attention of the crowd. A dead dog dares to hit me? When he was defeated by Ningyu, Higuan was very angry. However, he knew that he was no match for Ningyu, so he didn't fight with Ningyu. Now Higuan believed that he could easily deal with the Dark Emperor. Therefore, Higuan clenched his right fist and punched the Dark Emperor's head. I want to eat braised dog meat today, ha ha ha! Higuan seemed to have seen the tragic scene of the Dark Emperor's brain exploding, and he laughed uproariously. Bang! Higuan's arrogant laughter had only been halfway through when it suddenly stopped, and then his body was like a kite with a broken string as he retreated a few meters back. Pucci! Dark red blood spurted out. Higuan saw stars and could not even stand steadily. Rumble! At this time, Ningyu's solitaire had already collided with Lu Qiong's sword wave. When the two sword waves clashed, boundless essence scattered in all directions. Seeing this, everyone fled in all directions. Among them, Ningyu and Lu Qiong, who were at the center of the sword wave, stared at each other and stood still, letting the primordial qi hit them. Looking closely, one could see that there was a dense yuan qi light barrier on the surface of Ningyu and Lu Qiong's bodies. The yuan qi light barrier easily blocked the yuan qi fragments created by the collision of the sword ripples. The seventh form of the supreme nine purities, sword art. Ningyu's brows were slightly solemn as he mumbled. Its power is indeed heaven-defying. It can actually compete with my solitaire. After listening to Ningyu, Lu Qiong almost spat out a mouthful of blood. You call this heaven-defying? I executed the seventh form of the supreme nine purities sword art, while you only executed the sixth form. If this was heaven-defying, then what was not heaven-defying? Cut the crap. You won't be able to escape today. When the primordial qi fragments completely dissipated, Lu Qiong said coldly, At first, I planned to bring you back to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple alive. Now I've changed my mind. I realize that bringing a dead person back isn't a big problem. You really want to kill me? Ningyu frowned and said hesitantly, What? Are you scared? If you're afraid, then hurry up and cripple your own cultivation. Then kneel down and count out to me a few times. Perhaps I'll spare your life and only cripple you. The corners of Lu Qiong's mouth curled up as she spoke sinisterly. I think you might have misunderstood. I'm just making sure. Ningyu's expression was emotionless as he said indifferently, Now that I'm sure that you're determined to kill me, I don't have any concerns anymore. Ha ha ha. Lu Qiong seemed to have heard the funniest joke. She first threw her head back and laughed maniacally before changing the topic and reprimanding, Whether you have concerns or not has nothing to do with me. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll send you to heaven. The moment she said the word heaven, Lu Qiong stomped on the ground and dashed out rapidly. Lu Qiong's speed was so fast that there was a sizzling sound when she came into contact with the air. Initially, Ningyu was very close to Lu Qiong. Coupled with Lu Qiong's speed, it only took 3 seconds for Lu Qiong to reach Ningyu. Although the situation was critical for Ningyu, Ningyu still looked calm as though it was not Lu Qiong who was charging at him. The first second, Lu Qiong's speed was extremely fast. The second, Lu Qiong continued to increase her speed. The third second. When the third second arrived, Lu Qiong clenched his fists and punched at Ningyu's head. In order to kill Ningyu with one move, Lu Qiong even wrapped the essence qi in his consciousness sea around his fists, causing his fists to make sizzling sounds. This is the moment. As soon as Lu Qiong punched, Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and he punched with both of his fists. Bam! When the 4 fists collided, Ningyu and Lu Qiong's eyes narrowed. Subsequently, Lu Qiong took out his flying sword and stabbed at Ningyu's heart. Uft! The sound of the flying sword stabbing into flesh was heard. Ha ha ha, you're still too young. Seeing the flying sword stabbing into Ningyu's heart, Lu Qiong threw his head back and laughed. Is that so? Just as Lu Qiong was laughing maniacally, he heard an indifferent voice. Immediately after, Ningyu held the red fiend sword and stabbed it out. Poof! The same flying sword stabbed into the body, and the same scene was displayed again. However, this time, the one who was stabbed by the flying sword was not Ningyu, but Lu Qiong. Lu Qiong lowered his head and looked at the red flying sword that was stabbed into his heart. Then he raised his head and pointed at Ningyu, shouting crazily, "Impossible! How is this possible? Haven't you already been stabbed in the heart by my flying sword? How can you still resist?" Lu Qiong could not understand. Logically, a martial artist whose heart was pierced by his king-level flying sword could not possibly have such powerful combat power. "Did you think you stabbed my heart?" Ningyu raised the red fiend sword in his hand and slashed at the flying sword that was stabbed into his heart right in front of Lu Qiong. Crack! The flying sword was slashed into two, and Ningyu pulled out the part that was stabbed into his heart. Ding! Throwing the remaining half of the flying sword onto the ground, Ningyu said calmly, "I forgot to tell you that I tilted my body slightly just now, so you did not stab my heart. You..." Poof! Lu Qiong extended his hand and pointed at Ningyu. He wanted to say something cold, but he spat out a mouthful of blood again. His eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. What? Lu Qiong's death was something that Higuan and Zhang Gu could never have imagined. One had to know that Lu Qiong was ranked fourth in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. The unparalleled genius ranked fourth in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple was actually defeated by an ordinary person from the Xia Kingdom. No, it should be said that he was defeated by the son of a traitor from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Shock, fear, annoyance, all kinds of uneasy emotions appeared on Higuan and Zhang Gu's faces. Let's go. After Lu Qiong's death, Higuan knew that he had no chance of survival if he stayed any longer. Staying here would only mean death, but there was still a chance of survival if he ran away. However, Higuan did not run away rashly. He quietly approached Zhang Gu and whispered, "Zhang Gu, I will take the left and you take the right. Let's split up and run." No one noticed that when Higuan was speaking, he quietly threw a storage bag into Zhang Gu's pocket. Split up and run? Zhang Gu frowned. Based on his understanding of Higuan, he knew that Higuan was not that kind. However, with his life hanging by a thread, Zhang Gu couldn't be bothered anymore. He stomped on the ground and quickly ran to the right. "Hee, in order to live, I have to wrong you." Chapter 878. Supremacy, Yun, Tian Crack. The moment the jade tablet shattered, Zhang Gu sensed that something was amiss. However, by the time Zhang Gu reacted, it was already too late. Rumble. The storage bag in his pocket suddenly exploded. The aftermath of the terrifying explosion almost engulfed Zhang Gu in an instant. Then, with Zhang Gu at the center, the shock waves spread out in all directions. Red Fiend, Dark Emperor, seal off the training field. I'll be right back. No matter how terrifying the shockwave of the explosion was, Ningyu did not take it to heart. That was because the Dark Emperor and Red Fiend were very strong and could easily control the shockwave within a certain range. As long as the shockwave did not spread out, it would be fine. Ningyu's focus was on Higuan. Ningyu needed to know clearly who had come to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple and how many supremacies there were. Only then could Ningyu better judge the difference in strength between him and the enemy. Otherwise, he would be blind like a headless fly. What a useless idiot. And he's a genius ranked fourth on the genius roll. To think that he can't even beat that bastard Ningyu. What a disgrace. A disgrace to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. In a dense forest outside Tianqian City, Higuan appeared out of thin air and spat out a mouthful of saliva. He said coldly, "That bastard might be at the early stage of the manifestation realm like me, but he's much stronger than me." I need to increase my cultivation as soon as possible. Once I advance to mid-stage manifestation realm, I'll immediately seek revenge on him." As he spoke, Higuan fell into deep thought. His cultivation was early-stage manifestation realm. If he wanted to advance to mid-stage manifestation realm in a short period of time, he would need a large amount of resources. Or rather, there was an expert who was willing to imbue him directly. At the thought of this, Higuan revealed a determined look. He took out a scroll from his pocket and burned it. Sizzle! After the scroll was burned, Higuan sat cross-legged on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. Swoosh! When the scroll was burned, a group of dozens of martial artists were advancing rapidly in the depths of the magical Beast Ridge. Suddenly, the old man in the lead stopped. "Supremacy, Yun Tian, did you discover something?" Next to the old man, a slender young man asked doubtfully. "No, I have something to do in Tianqian City. You guys rest here first." The old man waved his hand, then tore open the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After the old man left, an early-stage manifestation realm martial artist came to the young man's side and asked with a frown, "Yin Hua, what happened to Venerable Yun Tian?" "Not sure." The young man called Yin Hua shook his head. "Without Sovereign Yun Tian, it will be very difficult for us to continue venturing deeper into the magical Beast Mountain Range," the early-stage creation realm warrior said. "It's fine. Let's wait for now. If Venerable Cloud Sky doesn't return in 3 hours, we'll continue." Yin Hua found a rock to sit on and waved his hand. Seeing this, the rest of the martial artists sat down cross-legged, took out their origin crystals, and began to rest. At first, they thought that there were no powerful demonic beasts in the magical Beast Mountain Range. However, as they ventured deeper, they realized that they were wrong. It wasn't that there weren't any powerful demonic beasts in the magical Beast Mountain Range. It was just that they hadn't reached the deepest region yet. Along the way, they had encountered at least 10 half-step manifestation realm demonic beasts. Furthermore, the deeper they went, the stronger the cultivation of the demonic beasts. They could imagine that they would definitely encounter manifestation realm demonic beasts if they continued further. Huff! At the same time, in the dense forest outside of Tianqian City, Higuan opened his eyes and slowly spat out a mouthful of turbid air. "I've finally recovered to my peak state. Now, I just have to wait for Venerable Yun Tian to rush over and give me the blessing." Higuan's eyes revealed a smear of viciousness. Venerable Yun Tian is a first-grade pinnacle human sovereign. After he gives me the blessing, my cultivation will at least reach the middle phase of the manifestation realm, or even the late phase of the manifestation realm. At that time, dealing with those initial phase of the manifestation realm will be a piece of cake. Is that so? Before Higuan's sinister voice could finish, he was interrupted by an indifferent voice. "Who?" With his voice interrupted, Higuan immediately stood up and stared at the void before him. He said in a deep voice, "Don't be sneaky. Come out if you have the ability." "As you wish." An indifferent voice resounded once again. Thereafter, a skinny figure appeared before Higuan. Ningyu. Looking at the familiar figure before him, Higuan's face drastically changed and his body couldn't help trembling. At this moment, Higuan was inwardly regretting. If he had known earlier, he would have stayed further away from Tianqian City. That way, Ningyu wouldn't have found him so quickly. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Higuan could only force himself to calm down and said, "I'll be honest with you. Venerable Yun Tian will be here in 3 minutes. Venerable Yun Tian is a first-grade, pinnacle human sovereign. If he comes, you should know the consequences. Are you done?" Ningyu quietly listened to Higuan's narration. After a long while, Ningyu faintly said, "If you're done, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Venerable Yun Tian will probably take an hour to arrive. I'll calm him down first." Guan thought inwardly but maintained his composure on the surface. Ningyu, we don't actually have any enmity between us. I also don't like Lu Qiong. You've done me a favor by killing him. Firstly, how many people from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple have come to the Great Xia Kingdom? Who are the powerful figures? Ning, you couldn't be bothered with Guan and asked directly. I'm not sure about the exact number, but there are quite a few powerful figures. Guan didn't play any tricks and said, just the Supremes alone, there are quite a few. Venerable Yun Tian can only be ranked below average among all the Supremes. Aside from the Supremes, there's also a cultivator ranked third on the Supreme Nine Purities Temple's genius ranking, Yinhua. Yinhua! Hearing this, Ningyu knitted his brows and asked, what's his cultivation? I'm not sure, because in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, the top 3 martial artists on the genius ranking are all freaks. Guan shook his head and continued. Lu Qiong is ranked 4th on the genius ranking and is at the early stage of the manifestation realm. But I can tell you very clearly that even 10 Lu Qiong combined wouldn't be a match for Yinhua. So powerful. Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat. Lu Qiong's strength was still very strong. Looking at Guan's facial expression, he didn't seem to be lying. 10 Lu Qiong wouldn't be a match for Yinhua. It was imaginable how terrifying Yinhua's strength was. At the very least, the current Ning, you couldn't contend against him. It seems like the early stage of the manifestation realm is far from enough. Ningyu took a deep breath and said to himself, after advancing to the early stage of the manifestation realm, Ningyu's strength had a qualitative leap. Even if he were to face a half-step supremacy realm cultivator, he would be able to kill him easily. However, there was always someone better out there. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible. Good chance that you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.